Good morning, everybody. I call the November 12th, 2024 meeting of DuPage County Board to order. A quorum of members is physically present. I will entertain a motion to permit those members not physically present to. All in favor? Okay. Motion carries. I invite everyone to stand and join in the Pledge of Allegiance. Member Eckhoff, will you please lead the pledge? Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, justice for all. I now invite Pastor Dan Martinson from Hobson Road Community Church in Downers Grove to lead us in the invocation.
Thank you. On behalf of the people of Hobson Road Community Church in Downers Grove, thank you for your invitation today. Let us pray. Almighty God, we recognize you as the giver of all wisdom. We recognize you as the one who sets kings upon thrones. And so we ask today that over the course of this meeting, you would grant wisdom to those who will discuss the issues at hand. I pray, Lord, that you would give those who have authority the ability to use their authority with humility for those whom they would serve. We ask, Lord, your blessing be upon the good people of DuPage County, that your favor and your protection would be upon us. We ask all of these things in the name of our Savior Jesus. Amen.
Okay, Mr. Deputy Clerk, please take the roll.
Cahill. Here. Chaplin.
Here.
Childress. Covert.
Here.
Dessart. Eckhoff. Here. Evans.
Here.
Galassi. Here. Garcia. Here. Guston. Here. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Ozog. Here. Rutledge. Here. Schwarzy. Here. Tornatori. Here. You.
Here.
And Zay.
Okay, this morning I'd like to invite Member Lynn LaPlante and Health Department Director Adam Forker to the podium. November is American Diabetes Month, in a time when communities across the country seek to bring attention to diabetes. This year's focus is on taking action to prevent diabetes-related health problems. Diabetes is a disease that occurs when your blood glucose, also called blood sugar, is too high. It affects about 38 million Americans, including adults and youth. Member Lynn LaPlante has a family member with type 1 diabetes and asked for our proclamation today, type 1 diabetes, and asked for the proclamation in support of families in DuPage living with diabetes. I'll read the proclamation. Okay. Whereas the American Diabetes Association estimates that nearly 1 out of 2 Americans has diabetes or is considered pre-diabetic. And whereas type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune condition in which the body no longer produces insulin. Roughly 5% of the adult U.S. population has type 1 diabetes. And whereas type 1 diabetes has sometimes been referred to as juvenile or childhood onset diabetes, however, it affects both children and adults, and people can be diagnosed at any age. And whereas the CDC reports a nearly 30% increase in type 1 diabetes diagnoses in the United States in 2020, with risk factors being both genetic and environmental. And whereas both type 1 and type 2 diabetes represent distinct yet equally challenging experiences for individuals and families, as those with type 1 diabetes manage a lifelong dependence on insulin due to an autoimmune condition, while those with type 2 diabetes often navigate a complex array of health, lifestyle, and socioeconomic factors that contribute to this condition. And whereas diabetes left untreated or poorly managed can lead to devastating complications, including blindness, kidney disease, nerve damage, and heart disease, and affect not only the lives of those diagnosed, but also their families, caregivers, and the entire community. And whereas in DuPage County, we have a responsibility to provide a supportive environment that encourages prevention, education, and access to care. recognizing that awareness and early detection can make a significant difference. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Deborah A. Conroy, Chair of the DuPage County Board, and members of the County Board, do hereby proclaim the month of November American Diabetes Month in DuPage County, and we support education and advocacy for families living with diabetes and those fighting to end the disease. Okay, all in favor? Okay, enacted this 12th day of November 2024 in Wheaton, Illinois.
Thank you, Chair Conroy, and thank you, Adam Forker, for being here. I'd like to tell a little bit about our journey with type 1 diabetes. That's my son. That's my oldest. I asked him for his permission if I could share his photo. Don't worry. Exactly. Because I wanted to show everyone what it looks like to have something like this, a diagnosis, to receive a shocking diagnosis like this. This is what he looked like when he was diagnosed. Most people think when they hear diabetes, oh, someone eats too much sugar, they have a poor diet. He's a 3-season varsity athlete in high school. He was in perfect shape, a perfect physical specimen, double workouts every day, and he ate an athlete's diet. We take nutrition extremely seriously in our home. So this was a shock. I thought that type 1 was a genetic disease. So it was not even on my mom worry card. You know, the list of things that you're always kind of like lurking in the background wasn't even on my radar, nothing. Turns out type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease, and it can be triggered by many different factors that were referenced when Chair Conroy read the proclamation. It can be triggered by a virus. Does anyone know about a virus that's been circulating lately that might trigger some autoimmune responses? The numbers have been skyrocketing for new diagnoses of type 1 diabetes. It can also be triggered by some type of a traumatic event. He had an injury that required a surgery, and that's what triggered his response. Now, since I didn't know about this, we have friends that have type 1, so we're very familiar with it. My husband and I both have some of our best friends, ironically. So we knew what it was about. We saw them on their journey, but we still were not prepared. And what I can tell all parents and caregivers, trust your gut. I knew something was wrong. And it started the day of his surgery, and I just had a terrible feeling. It felt like someone was tapping me on the shoulder nonstop. I don't like that feeling. And I kept asking him, are you okay? Is everything all right? And I think every parent knows that teenage boys love nothing more than being asked that repeatedly, day in and day out, by their moms. So you can imagine what it was like that month. It lasted for a month. We brought him into the doctor to say, hey, is everything going okay with his recovery? He doesn't seem like himself. They checked everything except for his blood sugar. They said he's fine, he's great. The feeling wouldn't go away. One day after dinner, he was reaching for some water. And I said, huh. He said, yeah, I think I might be a little dehydrated. I've been drinking a lot today. Makes sense, he had 2 workouts. I heard a little voice, and it said, take him to the emergency room right now. He has type 1 diabetes. So I said it out loud, and I'll never forget his response, which was, I don't have freaking diabetes. But I insisted that he go and get checked. My husband took him, sure enough. And he was lacing up his shoes, I'll never forget it, tying his shoelaces, saying on his way out the door, I feel fine. I'm fine, Mom. He was immediately treated. His glucose level was 760. It's supposed to be 100. This is hard to talk about. They were saying that he had swelling in the brain, and they were moving him right to ICU. He worked out twice that day. He did everything normal that day. Just as I knew that he had type 1, I also knew that his brain wasn't swollen, the same way that I wasn't worried about. I don't know how I knew that, and so we did manage to escape that. The doctor said, "How did you know to bring him in?" Usually when they arrive at an ambulance non-responsive with really bad outcomes if they're this high. And I said, "I had no idea. I had a feeling, and something told me to do this." And they said, "We hear that all the time from parents, so never discount that voice." Some of the things you have to look for, some of the symptoms: excessive thirst, excessive urination, exhaustion, losing weight, things like that. That's what you're paying attention to. And also just if you have a feeling, bring them in, get a test. It's so easy. It's a finger prick. Now, an estimated 40,000 people are diagnosed every year. But like I said, those numbers are rising. Before the invention of insulin in 1921, the mortality rate for type 1 diabetes was 100%. It was a death sentence. If you got it, you died a very, very unpleasant death. Insulin is not a cure. It is a treatment. Having tech devices like an insulin pump doesn't mean it's fixed. It just means that you are not physically administering the shots of insulin yourself. You still have to tell the pump exactly what to do. It's estimated that people with type 1 diabetes have an extra 180 decisions they have to make per day. There's a phrase that says, "no day off." There's no meal off. There's not 1 minute off. We're grateful for tech. It's unbelievable. I can't even imagine what people did before tech. The outcomes weren't good. That's when you saw people losing limbs, going blind, and dying early. We have improved the treatment. We need a cure. The tech is something else. It's hooked up to my phone, my husband's phone, everyone's around our son's phone, and those alarms go off. You might see me getting up and leaving during a meeting, or you might hear the alarm. That's why. Then I've got to make sure that he is correcting. There's nothing scarier than when you get that urgent low and it's the middle of the night, and that walk from your bedroom to your child's bedroom to make sure that you can wake them up. That is every time. Woo, that's something. We're lucky. We have proper insurance. We have good insurance. We have a good division of labor. I love cooking. I love nutrition, so I can handle that. My husband has the patience of a saint and the tenacity of a bulldog, so he can talk with the insurance companies over and over again. Speaking of insurance companies, we rely on our community. We rely on almost a barter system. In the year of our Lord 2024, instead of saying, I'll trade you 2 beaver pelts for a pound of tobacco, I'll say, his last continual glucose monitor got knocked off in a basketball game. Can we borrow one from you until the insurance sends another one? He dropped a vial of insulin. He left the rest at college in Colorado. Help. He tripped in a game and smashed his pump. What can we do? We have to get insulin to him. That happens all the time. I belong to a bunch of groups. There's groups for type 1 athletes that help you at a game. There's ones for in college. There's ones locally. I have parent groups where we can text each other and we share medical supplies. Again, in the year of 2024, with really good insurance, we're still having to barter and rely on the kindness of strangers to help us manage this disease and this disability. That needs to change. I'm grateful to Adam Forker and the whole health department because I've brought some ideas. Maybe we have a medical supply closet here in DuPage County, where if you have a surplus, if you change your continual glucose monitors, that's what my son has, wears 2 medical devices at all time. He's implanted with an insulin pump and implanted with a continual glucose monitor. You need both. We need to help people who are less fortunate. It's not equitable in any way, shape, or form. This disease isn't. Some people don't have insurance, they're underinsured, so then what they start doing is rationing their insulin because they have no other choice. When you ration your insulin, your health outcomes drop considerably immediately. When you ration your insulin, you can die. There are so many horrible stories like that. Things need to change. My son couldn't be more proud of him, how compliant he is, how responsible he is for his care. He insisted that he was going to still go to school across the country where he wanted to go, and he wasn't going to let this disease stop him, and he did it. He changed his major. He was going to major in business. He changed it to poli-sci. Yeah, I know, I've warmed him. But the reason is he wants to someday be able to advocate and legislate for affordable insulin for others, because he wants to make sure that other people don't have it worse than what he's been going through. I really appreciate being able to speak about this. This is the first time I've ever talked about it publicly. It's hard, but it's important. I'm grateful to my community who's helped us. I'm grateful for the type 1 community that extends and knows no boundaries and knows no state lines or anything. I'm grateful to my husband, who has been the best partner in handling this, and my family. This is a family disease. You can't do this on your own. My heart goes out to people who don't have that kind of support system. I'd like to offer help to anyone who needs it. We can do better, we must do better, and we will do better. Thank you very much.
So thank you so much for sharing. From a public health perspective, I'll just share a few things. I think, awareness is the thing. And so it's critically important that stories like this be brought forward. There was a briefing from the CDC just last week that indicated we really are going in the wrong direction. Something like 16% of the US population is affected by diabetes directly. That number swells when you bring in the pre-diabetes and undiagnosed, as the chair's remarks indicated. But that 25 years ago, that number was under 10%. So in the last 25 years, we really have been going in the wrong direction. And as Member LaPlante mentioned, the situation has worsened since the pandemic. We've seen increased rates of hospitalization and other negative health outcomes associated with diabetes. So many people that had been struggling to manage the condition, it's really actually only gotten worse the last couple of years. So from a public health perspective, again, communities and individuals, we would encourage meaningful action to address the risks. So education and awareness is key. Risk factor symptoms, you heard that, that's crucial. Right now, there's a couple social media posts from the health department that's out there to raise some awareness for this awareness month. If you can find those and boost those, that's helpful. It doesn't always work, as you heard in this sharing, but encouraging healthy lifestyles, promoting regular physical activity, balanced diets, maintaining a healthy weight are all effective. Supporting access to care and advocating for resources, though, I do think are the two biggest things. So health screenings, early detection, training for the healthcare community to better manage and see the signs, better access to care and medications, and even better access to safe foods and safe spaces for where people can be physically and healthy in the environment, all make a difference. So collectively, both as a community, at the individual level, these are all things we can do to try to make it better for future generations, as she described. So grateful again to be part of the recognition and to share a few public health remarks on it. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Member LaPlante. And some of the most wisest words a mom can ever give is always listen to your head voice. Be careful not to say it out loud. Sometimes I get in trouble. Okay, now I'd like to invite Member Sadia Covert and Jason Blumenthal to the podium. Okay, we are pleasantly surprised, we were last month, to learn that DuPage County was singled out by the National Association of Counties for recognition of our strategic plan. The 2024 is the inaugural year for this NACO Edge Excellence in Strategic Planning Award, so we're the first, with just 3 other counties recognized nationwide. Member Covert serves as chair of our Strategic Planning Committee and can tell us more about some of the judges' comments regarding our strategic plan and process.
Thank you, Chair Conroy, and thank you to the full County Board for your active participation in the creation and adoption of our new 5-year strategic plan. I wanted to take a moment and share some of the comments the awards committee stated about our plan. DuPage County demonstrated excellence in clearly defining our mission, vision, and values. Additionally, DuPage County received an outstanding rating in communicating the strategic planning process, leveraging a variety of tactics for community engagement, including public meetings, social media, in-person events, emails, and various partners. These tactics were employed before, during, and after the strategic planning process, keeping the community informed of priorities and progress along the way. I am most proud to hear the NACO Selection Committee specifically call out our communication efforts during the strategic planning process. When we embarked on this process, the community determined the top priority was ensuring all members of our community had an opportunity to participate in the process, and we did just that. I would like to say once again, thank you to everyone for their active participation, and I'm grateful to see the work we do here in DuPage receiving recognition. Jason, would you like to add a few words?
I would like to echo all the comments already made. I really appreciate for the year process of how many emails and times I called you all asking for your input. I appreciate all of your participation, as well as the staff. There was a lot of buy-in in this process, and it was phenomenal to see the whole community get involved. So beyond thrilled that we were able to do this and we're recognized for it. So thank you.
Okay. On the matter of public comment, according to our county board rules, members of the public shall be afforded time to address the board. Individual remarks shall not exceed 3 minutes in length, nor shall the total time provided for all remarks exceed 30 minutes. Our first speaker is, oh, we don't have anybody. Gosh darn it. Okay. If the board had received public comment via our online portal, per board policy, those comments were provided to members yesterday so they could be reviewed. Comments submitted electronically will be included in the minutes of this meeting. Okay, now I'd like to invite Leanne Redden and John Rotondo to the board to give us a presentation on the RTA. Today we are pleased to welcome our guests, Transportation Authority, including Board Chairman Kirk Dillard, our DuPage County Board member on the RTA, John Rotondo, and RTA Executive Director Leanne Redden. John and Leanne will provide the RTA's annual update and budget presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say thank you to you all. I'm a DuPage County resident. I'm Kirk Dillard, the chairman of the RTA's board. So if it's any solace, the chairman of the RTA board actually is a DuPage County lifelong resident. And thank you so much for everything that you do and for your guidance and leadership. Very quickly before we I turn it over to John, who is a tremendous appointment, Chair Conroy, to the board of directors of the RTA. I want to remind folks that even post-pandemic, we are still moving more than 1.2 million riders every weekday on the RTA system. I always tell my downstate and our downstate friends, that is the equivalent of one-sixth of Illinois' population riding the RTA system every day. I'm going to go to Springfield when I leave here and remind some of the members in Springfield that we rate dead last in the United States in state operating support for, even though we have the second largest system in America, we are about 17% state funded. That's the lowest of any major system in the United States of America. We have over $400 million that the state requires us to do in unfunded mandates for free and reduced rides, $400 million. That's a huge budget hole that somebody has to eat every year. Historically, and we've got lots of talk, and you'll hear we will have a plan to have obviously cost reductions, but we have historically the lowest operating cost of any transit system in the United States, with the fewest mechanical breakdowns. That's with Chicago weather, as well as we have union labor in terms of reducing our costs, but we're generally the lowest cost per operating mile. We also, in fact, that one of you I just saw out in the hall who said, well, why don't we have a system like London? I always look at what every city spends per rider. London maybe 6-7 times more per rider than us. They have $10 a gallon gasoline. They have a central city congestion tax, and they don't operate 24 hours a day. So if you give us any type of new funding, we're obviously going to improve our system, but we're generally the lowest operating cost that there are. You know where to get me. My door and phone and emails are always open. I've ridden mass transit out of DuPage County for decades, as my children would remind me, but I'm your neighbor. I'm here to help, and I really appreciate everything that you do and your input. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to your great new appointee from DuPage County to our board. John, it's all yours. And Leanne Redden's my executive director. I will tell you, on an international basis, Leanne is so respected among her colleagues, and in about a year, she will become the chairwoman of the American Public Transportation Association. That's how respected nationally and internationally Leanne is. We're lucky to have her. Thank you all.
Thank you, Chairman Dillard, Chair Conroy, Board. Good morning, and thank you for having me here for this important discussion on the regional transit budget for 2025. It's been my honor to represent DuPage County on the RTA Board since July, joining the board at this critical time for public transit in our region. Metro and PACE have continued to provide vital transportation options to people in DuPage County. They are welcoming riders back with flexible schedules, new fare products, and innovative pilots that are responding to the new needs of riders. We are seeing more collaboration between the agencies than ever before as they adapt to these new needs, yet we know there's much work ahead. This next year represents a pivotal moment for public transit with the looming fiscal cliff. As federal relief dollars run out, we potentially face a 20% budget shortfall that could lead to cuts as large as 40%. Such cuts would be devastating for the people of DuPage who rely on public transit and would negatively impact road congestion, our economy, and our environment. We believe that transit's the answer to many of our region's greatest challenges. To be the solution we know it to be, we must work together to reform our funding structure to be less reliant on fares and end the decades-long cycle of chronic underfunding. This will enable the RTA service boards to deliver the service and systems that riders deserve. I'm proud to be part of this agency, providing guidance and support on these critical issues. It's a team effort, and I'm confident that with our combined efforts, we could achieve the changes needed. I'm pleased to introduce Executive Director Leanne Redden, who will discuss the budget and what lies ahead in 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Conroy, and members of the board, Chairman Dillard, and Director Rotondo. So I know I've spoken to many of you for several years. So this year, though, I am going to have to spend a little more time than I normally do. So just bear with me, because I think it is important that everybody understands some of the challenges that the public transportation system is facing and what's at risk if we don't address it. So is this the slide clicker? Yes, this looks like it. So I really do appreciate the opportunity here. So I am going to cover the budget as I'm statutorily required to do each year, but talk a little bit more about the transit funding challenges that we're facing and sort of put all that in some context so everybody kind of has a bigger picture on what we're all talking about. So just to give some context, and I think you know the RTA region is a 6-county region. And we only make up 10% of the state's land coverage, but we represent about 74%, not just the transit system, but the region as a whole represents 74% of the region's economic activity. We're the powerhouse, and we're really what drives not just the Chicago metro area, but the state as a whole. And I think, though, what's really important to think about, that level of economic input is not able to be achieved if we don't have a robust public transportation system as one of the key elements that supports our region. And as Director Rotondo just noted, that CTA, Metra, and PACE, who are the three operators in our region, really have worked since the pandemic to improve service, to expand access to services across the region, bring back riders. We're seeing double-digit ridership growth across the system. And I'm really pleased to report that while we know that there's a lot more work ahead, I think 2024 has definitely been a year of momentum and growth. So just to give a bit more context for what we're talking about, and Chairman Dillard touched on this, we do provide 1.2 million trips on every weekday basis across the three different operators. So even if you never get on a bus or a train, think about that in terms of those people. If there isn't the public transport system, they're in cars probably in front of you on the highway, on the arterial streets. So it is important to think. We have seen this double-digit growth since the pandemic. And that has been largely in part due to the COVID relief funding that the three operators received, allowed them to expand services, try some things and do some things differently, giving them that flexibility that we have never had, because most of our money, really, we're underfunded, and a lot of it comes with statutory strings associated with it. But I want to highlight the fact that this momentum that we have is at risk if we are not able to identify a stable funding source to fill that gap that Director Rotondo mentioned, a 20% operating budget deficit, if we aren't able to secure a funding solution. So just to touch on the budget for 2025, though, this is sort of the basic numbers as you see them. We have expenses of about $4.15 billion, a 5% increase from the 2024 budget. Each operator intends to add service. CTA and Metra budgeting for service levels above pre-pandemic levels. PACE has already been providing levels of service at the pre-pandemic levels, and though is continuing to look for expansions in their system, including sort of the new bus rapid transit services that they're providing, bus on shoulder services that they're providing, and partnerships really to start solving that first and last mile scenario off the broader fixed base network. So just to go through some of the numbers, this is the look at the revenues for the operating system. So the various components of the $4.2 billion of revenue that support the network on an annual basis. Sales tax is the largest chunk of that operating revenue, but you can see that the federal relief funding, which is the darker brown wedge on that donut, is about 20% of our current operating budget. And when those monies run out, which we anticipate in 2026, we are going to face that deficit if we are not able to work through and identify a funding solution. So closing that gap is really critical and important that we keep in mind that, closing that gap, though, will not provide the system that many people have been telling us they want and expect from our public transport providers. So we actually are going to need to find more monies than just filling that gap. On the expense side, the RTA agency, the agency's shares have changed very little. CTA represents just a little over half of the regional budget, with Metra and PACE at 27% and 15% of the regional budgets, respectively. And just to remind everybody, I think the three, Metra and PACE, are coming in to talk with you. I believe it's next month at your meetings. So what I'm sort of providing for you is sort of that rolled up regional look at what the collective budgets look like for the entire system. The RTA as an agency is that tiny little sliver at the top that you can barely see, and it's 1.4% of the regional budget. And what that also includes, just to highlight, is all the regional funding programs that we support, not just our operations. So a quick snapshot at the capital program. We have a 5-year rolling capital program that represents about $9.5 billion for that 5-year outlook. That is a significant jump from previous years, and the reason for that large jump of about 3.5 billion is the addition of the Red Line South extension on the CTA side, which the CTA was able to leverage over $2 billion of federal monies to help them start to deliver that project. Just to give a quick snapshot of some of the DuPage projects that are focused within this regional program, you can see a list of the capital projects that both Metro and PACE are looking to fund within that 5-year program. But I also wanted to just spend a second and just highlight some of the funding that RTA itself is supporting the DuPage region area in terms of some of its investments. And that includes supporting and funding the Village of Itasca's downtown redevelopment plan and access to transit, that work we've done with them. The City of Naperville and the county supporting not just Ride DuPage, but the Ride to Work specific component of those programs. And then we also provide funding to some of the social service not-for-profit groups that provide transportation in the county, including Clearbrook and the Ray Graham Association. So since the pandemic, we have worked really to think about what does the transit system look like in the future. So this is sort of some of the broader context conversation. We put together a strategic plan, which we very strategically called Transit is the Answer, in terms of supporting our region's recovery. That was approved by our board back in 2023. And it really has focused on a couple of things that we have been working on delivering in these past couple of years. Just to give you a sense on some of the services that have been improved and we've been able to support with some of the relief monies that we got from the federal government. The Access Pilot Program. So that's a pilot program in partnership with Metro to provide services for people experiencing low incomes. So people that are eligible for the SNAP program, vernacular was sort of food stamps, allowing them to access the reduced fare program across the region, so providing them cheaper access to the public transport system. So far, we've got over 5,000 people that have signed up to participate in that program region-wide. And we would like to expand that beyond Metro to PACE and CTA if there was more funding available to do so. We're also put together a fare equity report to really help people understand kind of what the transit system could be should we have sufficient funding, and also what's at risk if we don't have sufficient funding, and I'll touch on that in a moment. Another thing that has been long overdue for this region, while the 3 operators put together a region-wide monthly pass that's sort of an interoperable pass across the 3 operators, we are working and have made a commitment to delivering a region-wide one-day pass. So sort of that universal pass that people talk about. We, as 4 agencies, have publicly committed to delivering that, and we are trying to work with the vendor that provides the fare collection system across our region to get that delivered. Another thing of something that the RTA has done, we hosted a regional transportation summit just last month in DuPage County, in Arlington Heights in Cook County, but it was very much a region-wide focus on how can the public transport system provide better services in a suburban context. So we're not sort of resting on sort of trying to think about what the transit system can look like going forward. 2026, as I noted, is a pivotal year for us. That's when the COVID relief monies run out, and that's the time where we really have to make a decision whether we're looking to invest in the transit system and provide the services that taxpayers and the public keep asking us for, or are we sort of going to fall off this fiscal cliff and sort of face devastating consequences, not just to the public transportation system, but the economic environment in our region. If we choose to invest in our system, we will be able to secure stable funding. The ridership's going to grow. We'll be able to put more service out on the street, and we're going to be able to connect more people to jobs and take more cars off the road. And I think from our perspective, the message is pretty clear that there is a choice to be made here, and I just want to spend a few minutes just contrasting between the choice of investing or the unfortunate opportunity, the choice if we end up falling off the fiscal cliff. We, as Director Rotondo noted, we are facing a 20% structural deficit, but that's not a one-for-one translation in terms of the impact on the transit system. If we have to cut 20% out of the operating costs of the budget, that translates into a 40% cost cut in the levels of service that we can provide, which would just be devastating. So on the other hand, if we are able to secure $1.5 billion, for example, in operating funds, the levels of service are going to conversely increase by about 40%. And for example, that's going to mean expanding Pace Pulse services across the region, implanting regional rail across our entire metro network, which allows more suburb-to-suburb connection. Metro could also look to be providing express O'Hare service, for example. CTA would look to overhaul its entire bus network and make the whole system work better for riders. If we are forced, though, to cut service, we're going to see in the city what is currently a 15-minute headway become 25 to 30 minutes. In the suburban area, 30 to 45-minute headways are going to be over an hour wait for a bus. Metro lines, for example, that are running 90 runs on that line are going to be cut by about half. And so you start to think what the impacts of that is. That means there's a less reliable system. There is not going to be dependability. It's just not going to be a system that works for anybody. The flip side of that, if we choose to make those investments, the picture gets much rosier. We'll go for 10-minute headways within the city of Chicago and in the inner suburban areas, and lesser up around 30-minute headways in terms of a suburban bus connection. Metro's going to be carry say 90. Metro that's currently running 90 trains on its line is going to increase service to 120 trains on that line. So you start to see these, you're going to have these gaps in Metro service. You're going to have much more connectivity and reliability and frequency of service throughout the day. A $1.5 billion investment is really going to we think, sort of echo around the transit region by growing GDP, increasing jobs, and, taking 290 million miles of driver miles off the roads on an annual basis, and I think that starts to be impactful. I'm not going to belabor this, but it's sort of this downward spiral of a fiscal cliff. If we don't receive the revenues that we need, we have to do these negatives kind of feedback, service cuts and fare increases, and they just end up creating more service cuts and fare increases because we won't have enough revenue to support the systems that we have. So we have to prepare for sort of a legislative action agenda, and we are sort of diligently working on all of this to make sure that we don't face the fiscal cliff. We've been busy meeting with lawmakers, stakeholders, as we really prepare for this upcoming legislative session in spring, and these are just some key dates that we are currently working our way through that are important to the legislative cycle. I think the key point to make here is that the greatest risk that we face right now is inaction. And if we don't receive and have a sense of what our funding situation looks like by May 2025, we are going to have to shift from the current focus of the momentum that the three operators have to what we're required to do by federal law, and that's planning for service cuts and fare increases. And that's a 9 to 12-month process and sort of doing a complete about-face on the work that the three operators are doing. So I think it's really important that we we know also that it takes several months for any revenues that are coming to the transit region, to the RTA region. They take several months to sort of be realized in our coffers, if you will. And so that's why we have to start sort of almost thinking about these two parallel paths at the same time, hoping for and really pushing for some funding certainty by May 2025. Just a few items with respect to the specifics of our legislative agenda. We've said from the beginning that we understand and expect that any new funding that comes to the transit system is going to have to come with reform. We're also going to have to deliver some improvements and efficiencies across the operating system. And these are sort of some of the three the key highlight areas that we are focusing on. We continue to advocate for the legislature, not just to fill the operating gap, but to talk with us about additional funding to actually support the system that we've just completed a series of 8 Senate hearings. We are working with the House Working Group on Public Transportation, and they keep asking us for more service. And so how do we sort of balance all those competing challenges and issues and needs that we have? Specifically, what we are also proposing is a focus on personal safety and security across the public transportation system. We at the RTA have made this commitment and as part of our legislative agenda, and are working, really calling for the state to partner with us and local and county officials to really help us increase the presence of law enforcement personnel, and coupled with that, social service personnel across the public transit system. We alone can't fix some of these safety and security issues. We know it has to be a broader and community-based approach. But we do think that the riders have been very clear to us that they want to see more police presence and more support both across the transit network operations and at train stations, bus stops, and on our vehicles. The other three areas of reform that we are focusing on in terms of advocating for new within operating funding come with some of these reform ideas that really encompass sort of a stronger RTA, making sure that the RTA and the region and the transit operators are held more accountable if we are given additional funding. And we're really proposing that the focus areas be with a strengthened RTA in terms of better service coordination, fair policy, and capital project prioritization. I'm not going to get into a lot of the details around that, but we think that they are three key areas that have very much a regional focus and could free up the service boards also to provide the thing that they do best, which is run buses and trains. And we at the RTA could take some of that burden away from them and sort of take a regional focus and help not just provide that accountability, but a focus on customers and delivering better service. So everybody kind of knows what the expectations are and what they're getting, whether it be the operator or the riding public. And that's really been where our focus is across those three areas. So just to wrap up, we've got a series of next steps. I'm here talking to you today. We are making a presentation to each of the counties around the region. We have the three service boards coming in to present very detailed versions of our budget, even though they've given us a lot more information over the past coming months. That conversation happens next week. We will be hosting a virtual public hearing. We will be sharing that across our website and others. It's encouraging anyone to come and talk to us about what they want to see out of the public transportation system on December 3rd. And then the final step in that process is with the RTA board approving the regional budget on December 19th. With that, I appreciate your indulgence. I know I talked a lot longer than we normally do, but I think it is important because we are at such a pivotal point in our transit system. But I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Leanne, just to start, there's two important numbers here. Can you repeat the number to hit the fiscal cliff number and then to improve services and operations? What the two numbers are?
So we're facing about an operating budget of about $730 million off the current system, which is essentially the gap that the COVID relief monies have been filling. But if we want to deliver the service that not just the RTA has said, but CMAP and other regional entities have said, the legislature, many members of the legislature have been asking us for, taxpayers have been asked, and riders have been asking us for, that number is about $1.5 billion. And I know that that is a big number, but that's the investment that is needed to deliver the services, that's sort of the expectation of what people want, and that's the delta that we sort of have to face.
Okay, Member Galassi.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the presentation. I just have three quick questions. The first one is ridership still growing post-COVID, or is it plateaued?
No, it is absolutely growing. We have been seeing year over year double-digit growth. Now, is it back to fully where we were before COVID? Absolutely not. But it's around the 80% range, and it varies by different service board. But let me explain some of the nuances. Special event and weekend service and evening service is back well above pre-pandemic levels. So what that tells us is people want to ride the public transport system, but the workforce has significantly changed, right? We know, and our system very much, even different to even some of our peers around the country, is very much a sort of a, if you look at it on a map, it looks like a wheel with these hub spokes into the hub of the central city. We know that riders are not riding 5 days a week to commute to downtown. And so if you look at the Metro's ridership on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, it is above pre-pandemic levels. But Mondays are coming back. Fridays is not as strong. And if we were honest with ourselves, we were seeing that trend because of technology and travel and work behaviors pre-pandemic. The pandemic just kind of fast-forwarded that for all of us. But we think that we can continue with modifying the types of services that we provide, Metro providing sort of this more frequent middle of the day and weekend services, regional connectivity between different hubs is sort of an avenue to actually continue to grow the ridership as we go forward.
Okay, thank you. Second question is, Chairman Dillard said we are last with state funding for operations, and you said that was 17%?
Yes.
What is do you have a percentage goal that you would like to see being funded from the state?
As much as possible. No, but I mean, just to give some comparison, I think New York is in, Kyle, you'll probably have to back me up on the numbers, but I think New York area, the transit system there is about 38% of their money, operating monies come from the state government.
So over double what our state is providing.
Yeah, and so I think our goal is to grow that.
Sure.
We want to continue the conversation with the General Assembly to sort of work out how can we find opportunities to better fund the transit system.
Okay, thank you. And then finally, Chairman Dillard also stated there was $400 million of free and reduced rides. I'm just curious how that also compares to other.
Yeah, I off the top of my head, I don't know what they're sort of, I mean, those basically when you get the state monies, they kind of go in one big pot and you fund everything out of that. So, you know, they've got significantly more amount of money to sort of subsidize and support those programs. Plus, not every state requires the same level of reduced and free rides that we're required by our state to provide. But the $400 million number is the combination of ADA paratransit services for the entire region and the reduced and free ride programs. The reduced fare program is sort of, there's a certain level that's required by the federal government. We have additional services that we provide. Now, I will say that I think that there's sometimes some good reason to provide, there's many good reasons to provide those services, and we think that actually there could be more opportunities in terms of economic benefit to actually even expanding some of those, but it is a $400 million, and just to give you the number on what the state provides us to cover those $400 million costs, it's about $27 million on an annual basis. So we, off the top, so all the monies that we get from sales tax and fare revenues, basically off the top, we have to fund those services first, and then you start to get to divvy up what the three operators get for the rest of their operating budget.
Okay, thank you. I just want to say, wonderful presentation. I think public transit is incredibly important for our economy, so thank you for all the work and effort you're putting into this.
Thank you.
Member Ozog and then Member Cahill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is about fare box recovery. I believe you are legislated to a 50% fare box recovery. How does that compare with other major transit systems, New York, Los Angeles, et cetera?
Well, it's the opposite metric to sort of what we said before. We are the highest, and one of a few that actually have these very specific, legislatively or a specific mandate to achieve that. Now, I will just clarify that the General Assembly has given us a waiver on that since the COVID situation, but that expires. It's coming up in the next legislative year that it will expire. So we do have to address that. And sort of just to explain why that's so important. Now, I get from one perspective, maybe from a fiscal perspective, people say, well, that's a good thing. It's sort of this compact between taxpayers are funding into the transit system through the sales tax network, right, and revenues. The riders are paying through fares, and then the state is providing us some monies as well. The challenge that the 50% fare box recovery ratio creates is that it sort of forces the three operators to only provide services where they are most fiscally sort of prudent, or they're going to make the most money. They're going to get more butts in the seats, to be blunt. And while sometimes that's a great metric, it's not always the right metric it's not the only metric that should be considered for what is a successful public transportation service. And what it's caused is sort of transit deserts and in areas and in communities, and they're not just in the city of Chicago, they're in suburban communities as well, where we don't have the levels of service that could really help lift up certain communities in our region. And that's one of the reasons. And I think so far we've received very good feedback from the legislature about, we think it's a metric. We don't think it should be 50%. We think there should be other metrics to look at what determines the level of success of the transit system.
It really ties your hands when it comes to building markets.
Yes. And like our peers, again, I think one of them is like 18% requirement, in the sort of teens and low 20s. And, they're numbers that we could live with. The 50% is just a big challenge, and it creates this sort of, and then the even more draconian side of thing, if we don't meet that recovery ratio, the state funds stop flowing to us by statute. And so that becomes sort of just another sort of dire situation of this downward spiral.
Thank you.
Okay, Member Cahill.
Thank you. Thanks for your presentation. It was awesome. So tell me, what is your plan, or what is your thoughts, or what is your idea on where to get the $1.5 billion?
So I mentioned in the middle of that presentation, the strategic plan that we've put together. And actually within that, we have 11 funding ideas. We are actually agnostic as to what funding solution comes to the table. Right now, the RTA is empowered to levy a sales tax. And that's sort of the lion's share of where our tax-related operating revenues come from. I think we are open to all options, and there is a collection of things. And I will say that I honestly don't think it's going to be just one source of revenue that is going to be able to sort of fill the gap. So I think creative solutions and a collection of solutions is probably going to be in the mix. Happy to share with you the list of the 11, and they all realize different amounts of money.
So are you looking to DuPage County to contribute to this? Are you looking to us as a board to come up with an amount that you want the county to, is that what you guys are thinking of?
No, at this point, we're not having those kinds of specific conversations saying, DuPage, give us X amount of money. I think we're talking really with the General Assembly about what either the state can provide or what we could collectively provide as a region. And right now, the RTA is the sales tax levying authority. So it's really asking on the sales tax side of things, the way the current structure is, it's asking the General Assembly to allow the RTA as a board to increase the sales tax. I'm not saying that's the only solution. There's a collection of another 10.
Yeah, there's a multitude of possibilities, one of which we don't support, and that is rating the road fund. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation. You know, several years ago, a lot of the constituents that I would hear complaints about was regarding repairs, maintenance. I think Senator Dillard or Chairman Dillard now touched on that you're the lowest. I haven't heard anything in the last several years. Complaints regarding maintenance, everything seems to run smoothly. The only thing I've heard from the constituents is more the younger population. You mentioned your special events, the riderships are up pre-pandemic. And so I hear the complaints that sometimes by the time they get to Downers Grove, some of the trains continue to go for the special events right past because they're already full. Yeah, or if they do squeeze on, and this is still Downers, they still got a ways to go to get in Chicago. So I'm not sure if there's enough trains running when those special events occur or how you coordinate that, but that's the only complaint I've heard is that, you know, these special events from more the younger population have said, I'm out there at the train platform waiting for the whatever train, and then it just blows right by them because they can't get any more people on. And Downers isn't like the one right next to downtown. It's several more to go.
Yeah, you're touching on it in a perfect example, by the way. All of public transportation worldwide loves Taylor Swift. If we could have, you know, Tay-Tay come and perform every week, we'd have record numbers of ridership all the time. But to your very specific point, Metro does not have enough funding to actually provide enough service. Now, I think they've been watching, and they're being very strategic because migrating more than 85% of their current fare payment is through the app, and so moving away from the old punch ticket system, and they still provide some of that for people who want that, but that electronic kind of data is allowing them to be much more strategic and specific about how they're modifying and planning service routes, how they've brought back service post-pandemic. I mean, I ride out of Roselle, and they've got and that's not actually my train station. I ride to Roselle now because they've got this really great express run that gets me downtown in like 36 minutes. You know, so they were much more strategic in how they're bringing back service and the types of plans they want to make. If we had sufficient funding, they would absolutely have enough trains for every Taylor Swift concert that would ever be in the future.
Yeah, well, I think these were George Strait ones that were complaining about.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you, Leanne.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to the ETSB budget presentation. And I believe the Emergency Telephone System Board funds and provides leadership to our county's 911 emergency system. It is the primary responsibility of local government to provide public safety services to our residents. Today, ETSB Chairman Greg Schwarzy and Executive Director Linda Zerwin are here to present the ETSB budget for fiscal year 2025. Greg and Linda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks for allowing us to make our annual budget presentation to this board. So, good morning. Before Executive Director Zerwin presents the budget overview, there are a few noteworthy things for ETSB for fiscal year 25. The State 911 Board will be doing strategic planning this year to include a review of the surcharge distribution formula. The timing of this exercise, along with the strategic planning completed by the county, works nicely with all the newly seated ETS board members, including 2 appointments for consideration on today's agenda, in developing a plan moving forward together for 911. In fiscal year 25, the ETSB will also be doing a strategic planning, dovetailing on the state goals and objectives, future planning for the county's massive 911 infrastructure, and financial sustainability. Along with the changes on the ETS board, a valued employed Deputy Director Matt Tosh has also taken a position outside of the county, once again proving that not only do we have some of the best people working here, but we also develop exceptional people who go on to lead in other places. The state's 911 administrator is also retiring in February. However, I am very pleased to say that our Executive Director Zerwin will be remaining with DuPage County and has been reappointed to the State 911 Board for a 3-year term to continue to represent our interest at the state level as the representative of counties with a population of 250,000 people or greater, or the 8 largest counties in the state of Illinois. So we're very blessed that she will continue in that role, and we're blessed not to have lost her to the state. As I turn this presentation over to Executive Director Zerwin, I would like to thank Treasurer Gwen Henry and her staff for their outstanding work on the ETSB investments that has netted over $2.5 million in interest for ETSB. Thank you to Jeff Martinowitz and his staff for continued operational assistance with ETSB staff. Thank you to Anthony McPherson and Tom Ricker and the GIS team, being able to transition to the use of the county GIS team for Next Generation 911 added to an already solid foundation of support to delivery of 911 for the citizens of this county. So now on to our presentation.
Next slide. We can do the next slide. Oh, there we go. So we skip the people. The people are in your presentation that we emailed to you in terms of. It's not on the slide. We did send out the presentation to you ahead of time so that you could, in case you had some questions, you could front unload those and fire away when I'm all done. Good morning, everybody. If you look at our operating budget for FY25, it looks like we did a really good job. It's not all that exciting because last year was the first time that we executed an intergovernmental agreement with the public safety answering points with the dispatch centers to give some money directly to them. That number was a prove-up for 2 years in a row, so we reduced the operating budget by about $2 million from what we gave them. So while it looks like we're dropping our operating budget, the reduction is really $2 million less than what we gave them. That was not a really great explanation. So we're chugging along. So it was a one-time expense that we gave them. That's why we're dropping that expense. So we're actually a little bit behind if you do the math that way. So overall, though, in the budget, we're doing pretty good in terms of our personnel costs, our commodities, and contractual. And since we do about $14 million in surcharge, we're still underneath what we're bringing in revenue, if you look at what we're doing. And our contractual costs were reduced, and that's what that $2 million was, that payout. If you go to the next slide, the interesting thing about ETSB is overall, what's different from most budgets you'll see is personnel is the largest cost. Here, it is the support of the 911 infrastructure itself. We have a head count of 8 for our personnel, and that's because we get support of county finance and county IT for some of our services. So that is a cost share that I'll show you in a moment. But overall, the major portions of our expense are through the support of the 911 infrastructure. Next slide. You've talked a lot this year about miscellaneous expenses. So we took a look at our miscellaneous expenses because we have 3 county board members on the ETS board. And we did a review of our line item expenses, and we were able to reduce some of our miscellaneous expenses through review by about $95,000. And so there's a slight review there for you in some of those line items and why we chose to keep some of our miscellaneous expenses. IT is a funny thing, and so we need to be a little bit nimble in what we do and have some ability to move and have some unidentified or obligated expenses in some of those line items. And for us, telecom is one of those things where the bills take a while to prove up when there's errors and things, so we leave a little bit of leg room or wiggle room there. Also, utilities have a way of changing their taxation and their costs, so we need to be able to balance that, and that line item is fairly large. So, but we thought you'd appreciate the fact that we, as an agency of the county, do listen to what you have to say, and we did do that audit for you with a net of a change there of an adjustment of $95,000. Next slide. The cost sharing here, ETSB was one of the first agencies of the county to do some cost sharing, and we've made some adjustments this year based on what we share for you. We can show you what we do. We share for an accounts payable supervisor, principal accountant. In the auditor's office, we share for audit review. We share cost of a state's attorney. We contribute to county GIS and some network support. We made some adjustments to those costs for FY25 for an increase of about $52,000. We do that based on the percentage of the time that we're doing, or the time that position is contributing. Next slide. How we are funded. 911 surcharge is a restricted revenue, and we estimate that at about $14 million a year, 14.2, depending on where we're at. We also get a whole whopping $2,400 in wireless tower revenue. There is, we have an agreement with one of our fire protection districts. Fire protection districts do not get surcharged directly, so when we consolidated one of our fire protection agencies, we created an intergovernmental agreement with them, and that is the membership fee. Interest earnings are varied, but as we stated earlier, the Treasurer's Office did a phenomenal job with our investments, and we netted about $2 million, a little over this year in our investments. That's partially because we had several major projects that did not go to completion, so we were able to have a substantial amount of money to invest during that period. We worked very closely with Treasurer Henry's officers, and that worked very well for us this year. I did send you her report that she presented to the ETS board in August, and so you can see that the prediction going forward will not be as lucrative because, one, we're going to be paying out a lot of money. Our radio project was $38 million, so we will be paying those bills, and we'll be completing some other projects, so we won't have as much money to invest, and also, as you know, rates will be changing. But we enjoyed it while we had it, so that was good. Also, we have some things in our budget that we work with our municipal partners on larger projects, so we hold the contract for the police records management as part of our Hexagon contracts. So some of the things we do, we pay forward and are reimbursed, so those are budget neutral. We also, on the last line there, you see 911 withholding. This is something that's new. In the statute prior to about 2 years ago, there was not language in the wireless, in the 911 statute to allow for the money that was collected for the 911 network to be redistributed back into the 911 systems at the end of the fiscal year, the state fiscal year. So that money was sitting. So the last time there was a sunset, the language in the statute was adjusted. Now at the end of every fiscal year, that money is redistributed to the 911 system. So each year in the last 3 years, we've netted about $2 million. That's what that money shows, 2 to 2.3. As the state does the fiscal and strategic planning and looks at the distribution, we don't know if that will continue, so we're showing that separately, and we don't count that as part of the annual surcharge because we don't know if that will continue, but that's a nice little bonus at the end of the fiscal year that we're seeing. So we're actually collecting about $16 million from the state right now. Next slide. This comes from the Treasurer's report, and it kind of gives you basically an overview or snapshot. You see this in your once a month as part of the Treasurer's report, and it gives you a nice snapshot of kind of where we are in our investment pool. I can read that that to you, but I don't think you need me to. It's just a nice overview of where we are in our investments and how they do that. Next slide. So basically what you'll be seeing toward the end of the month for our appropriation, what we're asking for is that 47 million and how it all lays out, and the difference, we're up about 8%. The interesting thing for ETSB is the outside auditors prior to CFO Martinovich's arrival set up something called the capital contingency line item, and what we do there is, it looks like we're setting, contingency is kind of an interesting term, but what it is a savings account for our capital replacement. And it's our savings account, and what it's telling you is we're doing a very good job of setting aside money for the replacement of our infrastructure. So while it looks like it looks like a lot of money, it makes us very nimble because everything in IT and for the 911 system is extremely expensive. It allows us to move that money as we need to in a fiscal year, and it shows that we're keeping our money and we're in good shape for replacement as we go along. So while it looks like a lot, it also shows for the county that we're managing our replacement in a good manner so that we're not becoming a burden to the county along the way, because most of the things we do are really pretty expensive. So that is the basic quick and dirty overview of the 911 system and infrastructure. And then I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Member Galassi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I sound like a broken record, but as I was reviewing this yesterday when you sent it out, it looks like we're comparing 2025 budget to 2024 budget in all of these slides. Is that accurate? I mean,
Yes.
Okay. Can we get the actuals to date? I don't understand how we're budgeting without looking at the actuals.
Actual meaning?
What we've actually spent versus what we've budgeted.
Okay. I can get you that.
Can we get a summary of that, like to show the 2024 budget with the comparing to the, I mean, I appreciate we have another month-ish left, but, we should be able to estimate what that month will be just to get the actual, so we know if we're budgeting appropriately. Does my question make sense?
Sure. I mean, we show it every month. You could see with our revenue projections and our monthly bills list, we post that every month, what our actual is, what the appropriation is, and what our actual is in expenditures. So yeah, I can get that for you.
Yeah, I just am looking for a summary. Like when we're looking at these budgets and analyzing the budgets, when all we're seeing is 24 budget and then we're comparing 25 budget, we don't have the data, in a summary form to understand how we're budgeting 25 compared to actuals of 24.
Yeah, I can show you that. We post it every month, so I can probably send that to you by the end of the day.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much.
And if Eve's looking, if she's listening, she'd probably email out before the end of
Okay. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Member Krajewski.
Thank you. I just pick up on the same question that Member Galassi said. It's hard to look at this without seeing how we finished last year. You said you're down 7% from the operating budget from last year's budget. Did last year's budget, do you know what that actually finished at, the 14.1?
The 14.1 is the revenue.
Yeah, well, whatever the operating budget, I mean, do you know what, did you come in with a surplus? And I
don't
think
have
the
that in
reason,
front of me.
Member Galassi, Member Cahill brought this up 6 months ago when we were talking about travel. And all across the whole campus, they budgeted $860,000 in travel, but we've never spent more than $300. I know your department was one of the biggest offenders, I would say, as you budgeted $100,000 for travel each and every year for the last 5 years, with not ever spending more than actual, on average 20 grand. And in fact, through 6 months, you were at 2,700 this year through the 6 months, when again you budgeted 100,000. I did see the little bit of reduction in a couple of accounts you said, but do you know what travel is for this year? Is it still the 100,000 that's been, seems like it's a place marker for the last 5 years, which never actually have spent anywhere near that number? And like I said, for this year, when Jeff had sent us, because of Member Cahill's comments, the entire campus, through 6 months, you were only at $2,700 actual, but it's budgeted again $1 million, $100,000 for the year.
So the short answer to your travel question, there's two things that have changed in travel, or three actually, but one is we budget training for the dispatch centers. So that depends on where the where the directors of the centers send and what they use it for. So I don't necessarily control what training is happening. So given the fact that they're down about 30% in their training, they haven't used a lot of that training and travel in the last couple of years. So one of the changes in the intergovernmental agreement that we executed with the dispatch centers is the fact that the training now, there's money going directly to them for training. So as we true that up, we're reducing that number. That's part of that reduction. I can't tell you what that is exactly today off the top of my head. I was unprepared for that, and I apologize.
Okay, yeah, I'd just like to know, I mean, if we've reduced, if we're not spending it, which we haven't over the last 5 years, I don't know why we keep putting, and that's just a small micro of everything that some of the board members are asking for, is we need to look at our budget and compare it to based on what we actually are spending over, you know, whether it's an average over 3 years or how we look at this year is gonna finish is how we budget, not this is what my budget was last year. Because clearly, you know, here at the county, the last 4 years, you know, we pass a budget, but yet at the end of the year, we come in with $25, $30 million surpluses. And then we continue to do the same thing. So I know they're trying to tighten it up this year. I'm just curious and like to see the actuals again for this one. Thank you.
Okay, member Yu has a question.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to state that I really appreciated the presentation from Linda today. I agree with Member Shorzy that Linda is truly invaluable and has been really responsive to questions and concerns that members of the ETSB board have had in the past, and even more recently, talking about actuals among other things. And as a member of the ETSB board, along with Member Eckhoff, we've had a lot of questions with regard to this budget, which I feel that were answered in the past. And anyways, I'm very in support of Linda and what she's been doing there along with her staff. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, thank you. Okay. I want to congratulate all those who won their board races and thank everyone in our county who demonstrated dedication to service by running for office. Our inauguration ceremony will be on December 2nd in the auditorium here in the administration building, beginning at 6:30. We will swear in 5 countywide elected officials and 6 board members. Our staff will be reaching out to you with details. And directly following the board meeting, staff will conduct procurement training for board members. Please plan to participate. Okay, on to the consent agenda. I seek a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Okay. 24, 30, 31, DuPage County Board regular meeting minutes, Tuesday, October 22nd, 2024, 24, 2809, 10, 18, 2024 pay list, 24, 28, 10, 10, 18, 2024 auto debit pay list, 24, 28, 47, 10, 20, 2024 pay list, 24, 28, 82, 10, 25, 2024 pay list, 24, 28, 91, 10, 26, 2024 auto debit pay list, 24, 29, 04, 2029, 2024 pay list, 24, 29, 65, 10, 31, 2024 auto debit pay list, 24, 29, 67, 11, 1, 2024 pay list, 24, 29, 99, 11, 5, 2024 pay list, 24, 28, 86 Treasurer's Monthly Report of Investment and Deposits, August 2024, 24, 29, 66 Treasurer's Monthly Report of Investments and Deposits, September 2024, 24, 29, 79 change orders to various contracts as specified in your packet. All in favor? Okay, I'm going to move on to County Bard, and I'd ask Member Zay to give the report.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair. I move on CBR 4924, the appointment of Patrick Joel to the Emergency Telephone System Board.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Zay.
Aye.
Cahill. Chaplin.
Aye.
Childress. Covert. Desart. Eckhoff. Evans.
Aye.
Galassi. Garcia. Guston. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. Schwarzy. Tornatori. And you.
Aye.
Okay, Member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on CBR 5024, the appointment of Daniel McCarthy to Emergency Telephone System Board.
Leave is granted. Member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on CBR 5224, the appointment of Michael Canuco as a DuPage County Hearing Officer.
Leave is granted. Thank you, Member
Thank you, Madam
Zay.
Chair.
Okay, Finance and Member Chaplin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, I move approval of FIR 020324, acceptance and appropriation of the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus Recycling Education and Outreach Program for pay year 2024 in the amount of $83,338,000, facilities management.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Chaplin.
Aye.
Childress. Covert.
Aye.
Desart. Eckhoff. Evans.
Aye.
Galassi. Garcia. Guston. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. Schwarzy. Tornatori. You.
Aye.
Zay. And Cahill.
Okay, Member Chaplin.
Thank you. I move approval of FIR 20424, additional appropriation for the Children's Waiting Room Fund, Company 1400, in the amount of $3,623.
Leave is granted. Member Chaplin.
Thank you. I move approval of FIR 020524, acceptance and appropriation of Section 5310 Regional Transportation Authority RTA grant agreement in the amount of $607,086, community services.
Okay, Member Zay has a question.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. This might be one of the last times I get to ask the Finance Chair some questions. Can you explain a little more what this grant is? No, I'm just kidding.
You asked the wrong person, Member Zay. Okay. Leave is granted. Member Chaplin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move approval of FIR 20624, resolution declaring equipment and inventory and/or property listed on Exhibit A purchased by the DuPage County Sheriff's Office as surplus equipment.
Leave is granted. Member Chaplin.
Thank you. I move approval of FIR 20724, acceptance and appropriation of additional funding for the Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program in the from $2,948,471 to $3,298,471, an increase of $350,000 for the period of October 1st, 2023 through October 31st, 2025, community services.
Leave is granted. Member Chaplin.
Thank you. I move approval of FIR 20824, revision to personnel policy manual providing urgent maternal protections for nursing mothers, Act, Human Resources.
Leave is granted. Member Chaplin.
Thank you. I move approval of FIR 20924, revision of personnel policy manual, Pregnant Workers Fairness Act, Human Resources.
Member Eckhoff now has a question.
I stepped out during part of this discussion, so maybe I missed it, but paragraph 1 deletes the requirement that requests of an applicant due to pregnancy, childbirth, or a related medical condition be in writing. In other words, you can make the request verbally, which we usually want things in writing for certainty, and I know Mr. Bruckner told me this is some type of a federal requirement. The ability to make a request for the service verbally as opposed to in writing, which as an attorney, we always want things in writing because it gives us certainty and we know when it happened and we know what was said, as opposed to somebody saying, I told you so. No, you didn't tell me. And
that's a reflection of the update of the Act. The Act wanted a broader ability for people to make that request and did not remove that requirement of a writing. They wanted people to be able to verbally share that.
we want more lawsuits with attorneys and things.
That, yeah,
the
we're following
Attorney
with
Full
the Act.
Employment Act. Can we put the requirement that be in writing back into it?
I don't think so. I think we're changing it to reflect to compliancy for the act. So, yeah. If that changes, obviously, I think we would change it back because that's our typical practice.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Did we have leave? Okay, leave is granted. Member Chaplin.
Okay, thank you. I move approval of FIR 21024, revision to personnel manual policy, personal leave, human resources.
Leave is granted. Member Chaplin.
Thank you. I move approval of FIR 21124, revision to personnel policy, manual, paid leave, human resources.
Leave is granted. Member Chaplin.
Thank you. I move approval of FIR 21224, revision to personnel policy, manual, sick leave, human resources.
Leave is granted. Member Chaplin.
Thank you. These next two items, Madam Chair, we tabled until November 26th. Good policies, we're just going to refine them up a little bit and bring them back forward in a couple weeks.
Okay.
And with
okay.
that, I will move on to FIR 21524, reestablishment and additional appropriation of the Special Service Area Number 27 Brokerage Debt Service Fund Company in the amount of $5,245.
Leave is granted. Member Chaplin.
Thank you. I move approval of FIR 21724, budget transfers 11/12/2024, various companies and accounting units.
Leave is granted. Member Chaplin.
Thank you. I move approval of FIR 21924, resolution rescinding FIR 019119, travel business reimbursement regulations.
Leave is granted. Member Chaplin.
Thank you. I move approval of FIR 21824, resolution approving reimbursement and payment of expenses not covered by a business travel policy.
Leave is granted. Member Chaplin.
I do have just, it's not a huge issue, and I'm not, going to die on the sword on this or anything, but I was looking over this policy, and it gives you 60 days to submit and approve. So, if an elected official or department head submitted invoice, let's say on day 49 of the policy, and then finance said, oh gosh, we didn't have enough time to get it approved, then that employee or elected official would not be reimbursed. So if we were to have departments, employees, elected officials submit their receipts within 35 days and then have it approved within 15, I think it makes it more clear saying, hey, if you don't get your stuff in by 35 days, you don't get reimbursement. And it gives finance and 15 days to go ahead and approve it. Not a huge issue. If we don't change it, it's fine. But it was just something I thought that made it clearer. And that's all. So.
Okay. I think staff does a really good job of pushing members when they have something to get that in.
Okay. All right. Great. All right. Thank you. So we had leave, right?
Yes,
okay.
we did.
Great. All right. I move approval of FIP 2124, recommendation for the approval of funding to Rock, Fusco, and Connolly LLC to provide legal service as conflict counsel for Special States Assistant Attorney for the time period of December 1st, 2024 through November 30th, 2025 for the State's Attorney's Office for amount not to exceed $120,000.
Leave is granted. Member Chaplin.
Thank you. I move approval of FIP 2224, recommendation for the approval of funding to Muscus LLC to provide legal services as conflict counsel as Special Assistant State Attorney for the time period of December 1st, 2024 through November 30th, 2025 for the State's Attorney's Office for an amount not to exceed $70,000.
Leave is granted. Member Chaplin.
Thank you. I move approval of FIP 2324, recommendation for the issuance of a contract purchase order to Alliance Insurance Services to secure cyber liability insurance for the county for the period of December 1st, 2024 to December 1st, 2025 for finance tort liability for a contract total amount not to exceed $143,413.
Leave is granted. Member Chaplin.
Thank you. I move approval of FIP 2024, recommendation for the issuance of a contract purchase order to Alliance Insurance, Inc. To provide employment practices liability insurance for finance tort liability for the period of December 1st, 2024 through December 1st, 2025 for a contract total not to exceed $47,914.
Leave is granted. Member Chaplin.
Thank you. I move approval of FIP 2524, recommendation for the issuance of a contract purchase order to Alliant Insurance Services, Inc. for excess general and automobile liability insurance for the county, for the health department for the period of December 1st, 2024 through December 1st, 2025 for finance, truck liability for the contract, total amount not to exceed $870,409.
Leave is granted. Member Chaplin.
Thank you. I move approval of FIP 2624, recommendation for the issuance of a contract purchase order to Alliant Insurance Services to provide property insurance for all county properties, including the health department, including flood coverage insurance for the period of December 1st, 2024 through December 1st, 2025. For the finance department for contract, total not to exceed $398,336.
Leave is granted. Member Chaplin.
And finally, I move approval of FIP 2724, recommendation for the issuance of a contract purchase order to Alliance Insurance Services, Inc. to provide workers' compensation insurance, workman's compensation insurance to the county and the health department for a period of December 1st, 2024 through November 1st, 2025 for finance, tort liability for a contract, total amount not to exceed $217,021.
Leave is granted. Thank you, Member Chaplin.
Madam Chair.
Okay, Animal Services and Member Krajewski.
No report, Madam Chair.
Okay, Development, Member Tornatore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move approval of DCCO 0002-24, a recommendation for the approval of an amendment to purchase order 6693-0001, issued to Acela Inc. to extend subscription service for Velocimo software integration between Acela Online permitting software and Bluebeam plan review software to June 22nd, 2025, and to increase the contract amount for Building and Zoning Division of Transportation, Stormwater, and Public Works in the amount of $4,631.70 for a total contract increase not to exceed $18,526.83.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Tornatore.
Aye.
You.
Aye.
Zay. Cahill. Chaplin. Childress. Covert.
Aye.
Desart. Eckhoff. Evans.
Aye.
Galassi. Garcia. Custon. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. And Schwarzy.
Okay, Member Tornatore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move approval of DCP 0003-24, a recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order to Safe Built Illinois LLC for professional services to perform building and plumbing plan reviews and inspections on an as-needed basis in unincorporated DuPage County for the period December 1st, 2024 through November 30th, 2025. The Building and Zoning Department for a contract total amount not to exceed $75,000.
Leave is granted. Thank you, Member
Thank you,
Tornatore.
Madam Chair.
Okay, Economic Development, Member LaPlante.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to invite everyone to next week's Economic Development Committee meeting. It's going to be held Tuesday at 8:30 a.m. It will be held in this room because we are having our consultants come in and deliver their final report on our feasibility study that has been commissioned and run by Choose DuPage. So we will be joined by Choose DuPage, our consultants. For ease of disseminating materials, it will be held in this room. Thank you very much.
Okay. Environmental and Member Rutledge.
Thank you, Chair Conroy. I have several things to talk about this morning. First, Friday from 3 to 5, Saturday from 9 to noon, we will be having our political sign recycling that you can bring your signs to the South 421 parking building or parking lot. Separate the stands from the signs, please, and don't just toss them in. We're going to try to make sure that we can get them stacked in, and please pray for a not windy day, because that gets a little problematic. Well, I've been talking the last couple of months about leave the leaves, and so again, please don't put them out on the curb. Put them in your flower beds, all those other places. Mow them on your lawn to break them up and just leave them there. They'll be fine. If you love lightning bugs, you'll do that because that's where they winter over. The other thing is I've talked about little native areas, and I have more milkweed seeds than I know what to do with, so I've got a couple today. I have way more at home because I've pulled all my pods. I have way more milkweed than I need. The rest of my comments I know we try not to be partisan here, but we've just had the hottest temperatures on record. As much as I love to garden, my lilacs are blooming right now. They're supposed to bloom in the spring. We have yet to have a hard freeze, which normally comes before November 1st. And there is not one forecast for, I believe, another 10 days. Our president-elect campaigned on rolling back virtually all of Biden's regulations intended to cut carbon emissions. And he just appointed to the EPA someone that sides with business over environment. He voted, his voting record was 14% on environmental issues. They're also going to be removing EV tax breaks, and it's likely they'll leave the Paris Accords concerned about climate change. So since the Democratic candidate won DuPage County by 55%, I'm imploring my county board members here and the chair to do whatever we can to continue to fight for the change that we're seeing in our climate and to do better at addressing those concerns. Thank you for that.
Thank you, tall guy in the back row.
So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Rutledge, and thank you for your leadership in the environmental section. I would also just add that my sister lives in Cerrillos, New Mexico, which probably nobody knows where that is, but it is very close to Santa Fe, so nowhere near the mountains, and 4 days ago had an incredible snowstorm. Draw your own conclusions. Okay, Human Services and Member Schwarzy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No update. I'll move right on to our agenda items. I move on item HS, COs 324, amendment to purchase order 66400001, serve issued to Benovating.
Second.
Doing business as Neighborly Software for grants management software to increase the contract in the amount of $99,000, resulting in an amended contract of $241,000.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Schwarzy.
Aye.
Tornatori. Aye. You.
Aye.
Zay. Aye. Cahill. Chaplin. Aye. Childress. Covert.
Aye.
Desart. Aye. Eckhoff. Aye. Evans.
Aye.
Galassi. Aye. Garcia. Aye. Guston. Aye. Krajewski. Aye. LaPlante. Aye. Ozog. Aye. And Rutledge.
Okay, Member Schwarzy.
Thank you. I move on HSR 2024, approval of issuance of payments by DuPage County to energy assistance providers through the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program, HHS grant for program year 24 in the amount of $301,000 for the period of October 1st, 2023 through August 31st, 2025.
Leave is granted. Member Schwarzy.
Thank you. I move on HSP 4624, awarding resolution issued to Chicago United Industries LTD to furnish, deliver, and install Energy Star appliances for the weatherization program for community services for the period of October 29, 2024 through June 30th, 2025 for a contract total of $67,367.
Leave is granted. Member Schwarzy.
Thank you. I move on HSP 4724, awarding resolution issued to Optimum Management Resources, Inc. to provide technical assistance and consultation services to the DuPage County Homeless Continuum of Care for Community Services for the period January 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2025 for a contract total amount not to exceed $30,660.
Leave is granted. Member Schwarzy.
Thank you. I move on HSP 4824, recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order issued to Cimbria Rehab, Inc. for Community Wellness Partner for the Wellness Center staffing and management for outpatient center at the DuPage Care Center for the period December 1st, 2024 through November 30th, 2025 for a contract total not to exceed $66,000.
Leave is granted. Member Schwarzy.
Thank you. I move on HSP 4924, recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order issued to Cimbria Rehabbing for physical, occupational, speech, and respiratory therapy and consulting services at the DuPage Care Center for the period December 1st, 2024 through November 30th, 2025 for a contract total not to exceed $700,000.
Leave is granted. Member Schwarzy.
Thank you. I move on HSP 5024, recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order issued to Cisco Chicago, Inc. for primary food, supplies, and chemicals for the DuPage Care Center for the period December 1st, 2024 through November 30th, 2025 for a total contract amount not to exceed $1,297,000.
Leave is granted. Member Schwarzy.
Thank you. I move on HSP 5124, recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order issued to Professional, Medical, and Surgical to provide examination gloves for the DuPage Care Center for the period January 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2025 for a total contract amount not to exceed $95,000.
Leave is granted. Member Schwarzy.
Thank you. Finally, I move on HSP 5224, recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order issued to National Auto Fleet Group for a 2024 Ford Super Duty F550 XL bus for the DuPage Care Center for the period of November 13th, 2024 through November 30th, 2025 for a contract not to exceed $202,044.27.
Leave is granted. Thank you, Member Schwarzy. Judicial and Public Safety, and Member Evans.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have my little update. I want to say thank you to the Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management and our Sheriff's Office for overseeing the safety and security during our last week's election. It is so much work to make sure that nothing notable happens, so they did a great job. Also, I have some great news. About the Illinois Probation and Court Services Association Awards. Chief Judge Bonnie Wheaton recently announced that 2 DuPage County Probation Department employees were honored with achievement awards at the Illinois Probation and Court Services Association annual banquet on October 3rd, 2024. Deputy Director Kathy Starkovich received the Connie Kaiser Restorative Justice Award for exemplifying the profession's highest standards in promoting restorative justice principles, practices, and activities for youth in detention. Kathy has worked to develop and promote effective programming for detained youth and has significantly contributed to incorporating restorative justice principles in her work. Senior Juvenile Detention Officer David Nix received a Distinguished Service Award. This was in recognition for his dedication and commitment to clients, peers, and the community. David has made notable contributions to training probation personnel and is a leader with the community partners such as the DuPage County Juvenile Officer Association, of which he is president. He also mentors newly promoted senior officers within the DuPage County Probation Department. So congratulations to both of them. And thank you to Director Bob McKellen for fostering this leadership. And then now moving on, I would like to move on JPSCO-11-24, amendment to purchase order 6738-1 serve issued to Strikers, Inc. to increase the contract encumbrance in the amount of $30,000 for a new contract total not to exceed $195,000.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Evans.
Aye.
Galasi. Garcia. Guston. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. Schwarzy. Tornatori. You.
Aye.
Zay. Cahill. Chaplin.
Aye.
Childress. Covert.
Aye.
Desart. And Eckhoff.
Okay. Member Evans.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move on JPSP-33-24, recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order to Strikers, Inc. for the purchase of ballistic and stab-resistant armor for the deputies for the Sheriff's Office for the period of December 1st, 2024 through November 30th, 2025 for a contract total not to exceed $165,000.
We'll need a roll call, please.
Evans.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Aye. Sorry.
Galasi. Garcia. Guston. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. Schwarzy. Tornatori. You.
Aye.
Zay. Cahill. Chaplin.
Aye.
Childress. Covert.
Aye.
Desart. And Eckhoff.
Okay. Member Evans.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move on JPSP-34-24, recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order to Heartland Business Systems to provide security updates for the Sheriff's Office for the period of October 24th, 2024 through December 20th, 2025 for a contract total not to exceed $196,876.61.
Leave is granted. Member Evans.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next, lastly, I'd like to move on JPSP-35-24, recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order to CDW Government LLC to purchase equipment and provide backup media and offline backup for the Sheriff's Office for the period of November 12th, 2024 through November 11th, 2025 for a contract not to exceed $51,030.84.
Leave is granted. Thank you, Member Evans.
Thank you.
Okay, Legislative and Member Desart, I can see you today.
You can
can
see me
see you.
today. Hello, nice to see you too. Usually there's blockage here.
Yes.
And you have a
Clear line of
email.
sight today.
Well, let me just say that as far as a report in Washington, as we know, the election is mostly over, with some ballot counting still going on across the country. Members of the House and Senate will be sworn in on January 3rd, and on January 6th, a new Congress will count the electoral votes and confirm the results of the 2024 presidential election. In Springfield, the Illinois General Assembly is scheduled to reconvene today and last through November 14th, and then again from November 19th through the 21st for their 2-week veto session. And I join Chair Conroy in congratulating every board member who won their race. It'll be nice working with you again. We are currently, this is very important, we're currently planning our 2025 Springfield legislative agenda. After today's meeting, Jeremy Custer will send out an email to all board members and to all department heads seeking input for our county agenda. So please watch for that email later today. As a reminder, DuPage County does not necessarily provide our lobbyists with specific bill numbers, but rather general legislation that we might be for or against. The deadline for submission, again, very important because we don't have a lot of time, will be Friday, November 30th. And then for your planning purposes, our next legislative committee meeting will be held on Tuesday, December 10th, to review all of the suggestions and then to finalize our legislative agenda. Planning for our federal agenda will occur in early 2025. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Member Desart. Okay, and Public Works and Member Garcia.
Thank you, Chair Conroy. No committee update other than I want to thank our staff who's always busy. I was here on Saturday and they had contractors and there was staff out here checking on the sidewalk project that was going on. So there's always something going on here and I just want to thank them for all their hard work all the time. I want to make a motion to approve PWP 002924, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Metro Tank and Pipe Company to furnish and retrofit the Public Works Fuel Station Gas Boy submersible pump for the diesel tank for Public Works for the period of November 12th, 2024 to June 30th, 2025 for a total contract amount not to exceed $37,115.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Garcia.
Aye.
Guston. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. Schwarzy. Tornatori. You.
Aye.
Zay. Cahill. Chaplin.
Aye.
Childress. Covert.
Aye.
Desart. Eckhoff. Evans.
Aye.
And Galassi.
Okay, Member Garcia.
I make a motion to approve PWP 002824, recommendation for the approval of funding to Kaminer Law LLC for professional legal services to assist the DuPage County Department of Public Works with Lake Michigan water allocation for unincorporated Itasca as needed for the period
Second
of
most
November
favorable
12th, 2024 through November 30th, 2026 for amount not to exceed $65,000.
Leave is granted. Member Garcia.
I make a motion to approve FMP 004124, recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order to Midwest Applied Solutions, Inc. to provide ionization 2 parts for the HVAC clean air systems at the Judicial Office Facility and Annex for facilities management for the period of November 13th, 2024 through November 12th, 2025 for a total contract amount not to exceed $45,660.
Okay, we're going to need a roll call, please. Do we have a second? Thank you. Roll call, please.
Garcia.
Aye.
Guston. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. Schwarzy. Tornatori. You.
Aye.
Zay. Cahill. Chaplin.
Aye.
Childress. Covert.
Aye.
Desart. Eckhoff. Evans.
Aye.
And Galassi.
Okay, Member Garcia.
I make a motion to approve FM CO 00224, amendment to Resolution FMP 021722 issued to the Village of Glendale Heights on behalf of the 18th Judicial Court Circuit for the lease of property for use as courtroom facilities for facilities management for a change order to decrease the contract expiration date of November 30th, 2025 to March 12th, 2025, and decrease the contract amount by $75,250, taking the original contract amount of $245,708 and resulting in an amended contract amount not to exceed $170,458, a decrease of 30.63%.
Leave is granted. Thank you, Member Garcia. And we have Stormwater and Member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For committee update, I want to thank the Stormwater staff for setting up and hosting the countywide pollution prevention seminar last week. This event is part of the county shared services program where we administer the education outreach required by the EPA to ensure compliance for all municipalities, townships, and the county. This program saves taxpayers millions of dollars. Training included smart roadway de-icing and hazardous spill response. The event was at capacity, 160 people in attendance, learning about reducing pollutants into our waterway. We're looking forward to our next event, which is scheduled for February of 2025. With that, I move on SMR 924, acceptance of the Lacey Creek Watershed Plan, prepared for inclusion in the East Branch DuPage River Watershed Plan.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Zay.
Aye.
Cahill. Chaplin.
Aye.
Childress. Covert.
Aye.
Desart. Eckhoff. Evans.
Aye.
Galassi. Garcia. Guston. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. Schwarzy. Tornatory. And you.
Aye.
Member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on to SMP 2624, approve our contract issued to Engineer and Resource Associates for professional engineering services for the development of the Prentice Creek Watershed Plan, a tributary to the East Branch of the DuPage River for the period November 12th, 2024 through November 30th, 2026. The contract not to exceed $95,000.
Leave is granted. Member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to yield the floor to Member Eckhoff, and I'm going to step out.
Okay, Member Eckhoff.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I would move approval of SMP 27-24, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Christopher B. Burke Engineering Limited for professional engineering and ecological services for guidance, document development, and training for the county-wide stormwater and floodplain ordinance for the period November 12, 2024 through November 30th, 2026 for a contract total not to exceed $320,000.
Okay, do we have a second? Second. Okay, thank you. Okay, roll call, please.
Eckhoff. Evans. Galassi. Garcia. Guston. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. Schwarzy. Tornatory. You.
Aye.
Zay. Cahill. Chaplin.
Aye.
Childress. Covert.
Aye.
And Desart.
Member Eckhoff, will you continue? Oh, nope. Hold on. Member Zay.
United States Department of Interior, USGS, for water resource investigations, period December 1st, 2024 through November 30th, 2025. Contract amount for $393,400. USGS shall contribute $168,600.
Okay, roll call, please. Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Zay.
Aye.
Cahill. Chaplin.
Aye.
Childress. Covert. Desart. Eckhoff. Evans.
Aye.
Galassi. Garcia. Guston. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. Schwarzy. Tornatory. And you.
Aye.
Member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on SMP 2924, approval of a contract issued to Scarce for professional education services stormwater management period December 1st, 2024 through November 30th, 25. Contract not to exceed $235,000, $85,000 from stormwater, $150 from environmental.
Okay, leave is granted. Thank you, Member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, and we're moving on to technology and Member Yu.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For my committee update, I want to mention that we just had our third county municipal IT roundtable meeting last Thursday, which was very well attended. And as always, I want to thank Anthony, Shanita, Debbie, Dawn, and all the other involved staff who work so hard to make these roundtables a success and to be beneficial to all the municipalities in DuPage County. And although Cybersecurity Month is over, we are still working on completing cybersecurity training for all our county staff. We are at 86% completion. And I do want to mention that I'm not there in person to bother people, but there are still 6 members of our board who have not yet finished the training. So you may receive a follow-up email from me. Thank you. With that, I move on TECO 3-24, Amendment to County Contract 6082-0001 serve, issued to Dell Inc. for a Microsoft Enterprise Agreement for all Microsoft software and Azure cloud services for GIS and IT, to increase the encumbrance by $11,405.53, resulting in an amended contract total of $3,850,042.62.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
You.
Aye.
Zay. Aye. Cahill. Chaplin.
Aye.
Childress. Covert.
Aye.
Desart. Eckhoff. Evans. Galassi. Garcia. Guston. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. Schwarzy. And Tornatori.
Okay, member you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on TEP 18-24, recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order to BDO USA LLP for the annual software maintenance of FireEye security software for the period of December 10, 2024 through December 9, 2025 for IT, for a contract total amount of $188,267.
Leave is granted. Oh, did anybody? Oh, my. Okay, good morning. Leave is granted. Thank you, member you.
Thank you. And I move on TEP 20-24, recommendation for the approval of contract purchase order to MHC Software for annual maintenance of the enterprise content management system that integrates with the ERP system for finance and human resources for IT for the period of December 1, 2024 through November 30, 2025 for a contract total of $85,926.97.
Leave is granted. Member you.
And I move on TEP 19-24, recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order to IBM Corporation for the purchase of program, product, software licenses for IBM ZOS and software support and maintenance for the BC12Z system server for IT for the period of December 1, 2024 through November 30, 2025 for a total contract amount of $111,171.72.
Leave is granted. Member you.
And finally, I move on to EP 21-24, recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order to Insight Public Sector for the procurement of desktop computers for IT and probation for the period of November 12, 2024 through November 11, 2025 for a contract total of $57,720.
Leave is granted. Thank you, member you.
Thank you.
Transportation and member Ozog.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I'd like to thank Chairman Dillard, Board Member John Rotondo, and Executive Director Leanne Redden for their RTA presentation of their budget today. We are definitely going to be hearing more about this in 2025 and the potential fiscal cliff. So it matters to all of us, and we'll be definitely listening and watching what's going on. Secondly, I'd like to invite county board members and the general public to join us from 5:30 to 7 p.m. on Thursday for an open house meeting to discuss the DuPage County Safety Action Plan. The program is hosted by the county in partnership with the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning and will be held at the Bensonville Community Public Library. There's also a virtual open house about these issues on the 5th of December from 6 to 7 p.m. You can ask me if you need any more information about that. And finally, our first item today is an agreement between the County of DuPage and PACE, and I want to thank former board member Julie Renahan, who really spearheaded this as soon as she came on the board in 2019. She was a real advocate for this area, and I want to thank her for this because hopefully we will be approving this in a second. So thank you very much. Okay, I move for approval of DTR 004224, an agreement between the County of DuPage and PACE for the establishment of a pilot rideshare access program for the Hinsdale Lake Terrace, Willowbrook Corners, neighborhood, estimated county cost $100,000.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Ozog.
Yes.
Rutledge. Shorzy. Tornatori. You.
Aye.
Zay. Cahill. Chaplin.
Aye.
Childress. Covert. Desart. Eckhoff. Evans.
Aye.
Galassi. Garcia. Guston. Krajewski. And LaPlante.
Okay, Member Ozog.
Thank you. I move for approval of DTP 005124, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Hay and Associates to provide professional landscape design and construction engineering services for various county highway projects for a contract total not to exceed $150,000. Professional services vetted through a qualification-based selection process in compliance with Local Government Professional Services Selection Act. And Member Rutledge was just concerned that I only had 2 items today, so I'm sure none of you
Okay,
are upset.
Member Rutledge.
Thank you, Chair. I was a little worried about you there, Mary.
Thank you. I'm done.
Just my 2 cents on this. I did talk with Bill after your transportation meeting last week that if we're entering into contracts with landscapers that are going to be finishing off these areas, we talked about developing a list of native plantings that would be appropriate for those areas. Our environmental committee is going to be mapping pollinator areas or deficits in our county, and I think this is a good way to pump that up. So that's the only comment I had. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We certainly will. Thank you.
We still need somebody to say leave. Okay. Thank you. Leave is granted. Thank you, Member
Madam
Ozog.
Chair.
Okay. Now we're on to old business. Do any members have any? Oh, Mr. Member Krajewski.
Yeah, this is real old business. I gotta go back to last century, but we do a lot of honoring of anniversaries for employees, longtime employees, but think of where you guys all were in 1999, November, but November 9th, 1999, 25 years ago, they swore, none of you guys were here with the exception of, and they swore Jim Zay in to fill out a term November 9th, 1999, 25 years ago. So I want to congratulate Board Member Zay on 25th anniversary. On the floor. Only one of you have been sitting here for 2 centuries.
Yeah. Congratulations, old man.
He's really old.
Yeah. Congratulations, old man. Okay. Anybody else? Oh, Member Chaplin.
Thank you so much. So regarding the environment, I know, maybe, I can't remember when it was, a few months ago, I think Member Garcia did a great presentation about all the things that we're doing for the environment at DuPage County. And I know the environmental committee is working very hard on environmental issues. So I was just coming up with this crazy idea that maybe we could put a slideshow together or something and put it on our website about what we're doing and what great work we're doing towards the environment. Things that are helping DuPage County and that are helping our environment. It even includes transportation with, using different de-icers on the road. So I know years ago they put the video up of the Public Works facility in Woodridge. They did like a tour online. So maybe just to promote that so that people understand, all the great work the environmental work that's going on here in DuPage might just be an idea. But yeah, and yes. And secondly, I did just want to thank our clerk and her team and the election judges for a very well-run, long election season. So that's it.
Okay. Thank you for that. Anybody else? Old business? Member old still. We're still old. We're still on from the old guy back there. Anybody else? Okay. Anybody on new business? Member Desart.
Thank you. I would like to thank Chief Keith Briggs and Lieutenant Roger Gertz. On Sunday, I had the opportunity to attend the Veterans Day ceremony here at the DuPage County campus. It was a ceremony featuring the DuPage Honor Guard, Tunes of Glory Pipers, and Doug Carmichael from Bugles Across America, who played taps. Keynote speaker was our very own Lieutenant Roger O. Gertz, Sergeant First Class retired U.S. Army, who currently serves as our very own Security Division Lieutenant with DuPage County's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. Sergeant First Class Gertz was a cavalry scout in the U.S. Army and served 6 combat deployments. On Veterans Day, I was wishing, good tidings to Lieutenant Gertz and to all veterans.
Thank you, Member Desart. Yes, and I encourage everybody to get to know Mr. Gertz more, because he really has a fascinating background of service in the military. Very impressive. Member Galassi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 3 quick things. The first one is in response to some of the conversation about the importance of the environment. I just also want to add that if anyone's talking to the members of the General Assembly, that, a big part of what the RTA presentation mentioned from what I heard was, if we invest and grow that service, it will help reduce the amount of cars on the road. So I think that's an important piece to remember as we're talking to them, to try to increase that 17%. Secondly, I just have some good news to report. I had mentioned a few meetings back about a tutoring program that we were trying to get off the ground in the Hinsdale Lake Terrace area, and I am happy to announce that did start 3 weeks ago. And they are actually calling it a study group, that they did kind of a peer group, and that was what they wanted it to be called, to try to attract more attendees. And I just wanted to thank Member Evans for joining me on the first night. It was a wonderful event. And also thank Dan Januik from the Community House, and Monique Alexander and Jamie Thompson are the 2 that are overseeing and running the program. So it is being held at the Community Center, and I know you were there when we bumped into Daryl Carter, so I think that timing was impeccable. So I just wanted to announce that exciting news. And then finally, I'm asking the board for consensus in response to a request from the Village of Westmont. They are looking for $50,000 for funding to help attract events to the FMC Natatorium in Westmont. These events this funding will help secure events through the 2026 season. And as we've been told in the past, bringing events to this beautiful natatorium, if you haven't visited it, I encourage you to do that, does calculate to approximately a 10-to-1 ROI on our investment. So, I really would like to encourage the board to approve this. A couple of examples: they just hosted last weekend the Water Polo Championship Cup. And, another quick stat is they've had over 50 Olympic swimmers swim at this pool. So I do believe that this is a great example of economic development working really well in DuPage County. It is a pool that is supposed to swim very fast. Swimmers are excited to swim there. And it is known internationally as one of the top pools. So I would like to, like I said, just looking for consensus to support this request from the Village of Westmont.
Okay, Member Desart.
Yeah, it does sound like a wonderful program, and you would have my consensus to use your member initiative program funds to pay for that. That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, so I think that, I don't know that the board is ready to take a consensus on this right now. I think that you do have your member initiative money, so is it possible to take it from your member initiative money? That would be my first question. Nick, do you want to address this?
So that would be the question is the funding source. I mean, what are the options out there? Obviously, member initiative is one. ARP interest, you have approximately $250,000 that is still unaccounted for, or not unaccounted for, but unassigned for various projects. But other than that, those are pretty much your only 2 options that you have. So, I mean, depending on a consensus, I mean, obviously member initiative, we don't need consensus. If it's ARPA interest, I mean, I know we have funded this before, out of ARPA interest before, but if it is that, I need to know a consensus and we can bring a resolution forward. I would assume this would come through economic development and then come forward, but I just need to know a direction from the board so that staff can then, if it is member initiative, then there's nothing that we're going to bring forward.
This is something we have done before, but I do think it should come through economic development. And also, it would be important, I think, for board members to be aware that this is coming up because it's kind of catching us off guard. And it certainly doesn't mean that there isn't support for it. It certainly just means that, I think we needed maybe a little bit more of a heads up to know that this was coming, and that can come through your committee. Member Garcia.
Yeah, thank you so much. I am in consensus of this. I mean, I went to the DCVB meeting last week, and they were telling good things about this. And I've been to this facility. It's actually in District 2, so I'd love to have some conversation with whoever's in. I don't know whether our member initiative funds are supposed to stay within our district as much as we can. So I don't know whether that's the strategic way we're supposed to be doing it. If that's so, then I think that the board member or the seat members of District 2 would love to have a conversation with you on how we can get this going forward for the mandatory.
Okay, so that's a good point. I think District 2 might have some skin in this game and might be would want to probably be a part of it. Member Ozog.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question probably for Nick. Is there any kind of a guideline list that will be coming to us about the member initiative, or is it we apply or give you the organization and then you tell us if they're eligible?
I mean,
like a list.
There was a presentation
Yeah.
a couple of meetings ago. Obviously, as we move forward, there will be more on that. I will tell you right now, this will absolutely qualify
Right.
for member initiative because
Oh,
of
yeah.
economic
I'm just
development.
saying, is there a list or a list
So
of
we did that at a
suggested-
meeting. Did we not send all that information to board members?
But did we get
Not really?
lists of actual
Okay.
organizations? That's the part I don't think we received.
Okay. Okay, so we will get everybody the criteria, the process, because it has to be approved. So they can talk to you about it, you can recommend it to them, but it still has to go through a process, and we'll make sure you all get that in writing, what that process looks like.
So we'll be looking at general qualifications and we can just submit. So we're not going to get a list of qualified groups.
Just hold on. We've got
No, I think that would be almost impossible
impossible to do.
with all the different districts and, new groups. Okay.
They could do
They- would you like to volunteer to help with that?
No, that's okay.
I'd be happy
Sorry,
to send
Jeremy.
you. I'd be happy to send you the PowerPoint that we did. But the one thing we said that we were going to do in the PowerPoint, this program does not exist until you take the final budget vote, and then once you pass the budget, we will
Sure.
have the criteria and the application and all that stuff sent out to you. We didn't want to preemptively do that, because if you started sending that to organizations and they started filling that out, it would cause mass confusion. So that's where we're at. But there will be clear guidelines on
Okay.
what organizations can get it. But I will send the PowerPoint out to the board today.
And we
so
have a
you
good
can use that.
idea from ARPA,
Yeah.
et cetera. So I'm just wondering, but no
In
issues.
general,
Thank
yes.
you.
In general, yeah, but it's going to go through
And
a
I am
process.
not volunteering. Thank you.
Okay, I lost track. Where are we at? Okay, Member Guston.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I actually want to thank you very much for the $300,000 per district initiative. I really think it's going to fill a lot of holes and help. I know we had in public comment today, it was written public comment from our District 204 representatives for their pilot mental health program, which is called the CARES program. I know my board members, Dawn and Sadia, we talked, and we know we're going to support that project for sure. And then there is some flexibility to work with other districts on things. So I just wanted to thank you for that, to actually listen to the public and be able to provide those dollars to each of the districts. So I'm looking forward to it, and I just wanted to thank you.
Okay, thank you. Member Kajewski.
Thank you. My suggestion, Nick, is ARPA interest, but to do it before the end of this year in this year's budget. These member initiatives are next year. This is more of a regional approach. The economic development, there's only a few attractors, and it is District 2 of big, international meets that bring in heads and beds. Just like, there's a lot going on with some of the conventions that have outgrown, like Costco used to use the Doubletree Oak Brook because they've gotten so big, over 500 people going there. It's now bigger. They can't use us anymore. So they've left, and they were paying $1.2 million for a week just to reserve that to host their convention there. So this is a bigger regional approach, I think. And, you can get into big discussions next year about where and when and how much money, but I think, Westmont just helped with an auditorium securing the, one of the meets in July that used to go to Indianapolis. And I think the delta on that was 7,500. They're going to be more engaged, and I think, we've talked, because Carrie and I went out there a couple of weeks ago, or maybe a couple of months ago now, with the Village of Westmont, about, just letting Westmont administer it. It makes it a little easier, but there's several national events coming up that they need to know whether they will have resources to be able to bid on those or not. One of them is FINA, the World Aquatic Championships next fall. There's 5 countries that participate. The U.S. is going to be one of them. They've been approached about being the site there, but, some of that stuff has to be done sooner than later. And Westmont is the boots on the ground there that can administer it. They're going to put financial resources behind it, much more than us. They did, give them 50 grand more, I think, for bleachers to buy. So, I think I think it's easier for us, and we've had this conversation, you and I, to give them the money and just let them administer it because they need to start moving forward. I mean, we can wait till next year's budget, and there's member initiative, and it's District 2 versus 3, but I think this is an immediate need, so that Westmont knows they have it, and they know that they can work with an auditorium to help secure these events. And like we did last time, go back 2 or 3 years ago, there was only a small window of 10 days where all those national tournaments that were going to be bid out, and they bid them for consecutive years. And if we didn't make that commitment for the 150 grand, they would have never bid on any of those. And they actually wound up getting almost every one of them, and it's been a huge success for the region over there, from both sales tax and hotel tax, from all the international travelers. And I was out with Member Galassi right before the board meeting started at 10 o'clock, and Member Carrie, we were asking, like, what was the name of that last big event that she had gone to in April? Leanna, the person from the RTA, she knew right away. She goes, my son swam against Caleb Dressel, the big Olympic swimmer. She understood how fast that pool was, but she even knew about it. But it's starting to get DuPage on the map as far as, not only nationally, but internationally. They all want to come to that pool to swim because of the way it was constructed, designed. It's one of the fastest ones in not only the country, but the world. And that was a complaint in Paris for the Olympics, was that pool design. And you're a swimmer, it's not fast. But again, I think we should do it ARPA interest, and we should do it next 2 weeks.
Well, I think Member Krajewski, and it's a very valuable economic engine for DuPage County. I think we're all very proud of that, and I do recommend you guys get out there and see it because it is a beautiful facility. But I'm certain that the chair will put that on her agenda next week. So let's go through the process, and I'm not going to speak for board members, but I think let's go through the process, and I think we will figure this out. So thank you guys for bringing that up. Member Rutledge.
I totally agree with Member Krajewski on this. This is a worldwide opportunity for us to bring attention to that facility, and the faster we can do that, the better, in my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, Member Desart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I was trying to communicate earlier, I think it sounds like a wonderful program. I really do. But I think almost everyone here on the board has wonderful programs that they want to give toward. I mean, I certainly do with the DuPage County Historical Museum, and that's not in my district, but it's, part of DuPage County, and it's a wonderful treasure here in DuPage County. So I feel like asking for a specific an extra amount of money for our specific interests is kind of superseding everybody else. Because if this project gets ARPA interest, then I've got a couple of projects I'd like ARPA's interest, and I'm sure most people here do. So, I mean, we were given a gift. We were given the Member Initiative Program funds, $300,000 per district. And I think that we definitely need to use that money first before all of us start asking for extra money out of ARPA interest. I just don't think it's fair. It's a wonderful thing, I'm sure, economic interest, it sounds like, but it's just not fair to the other 17 board members. Thank you.
So what I would say to that is that any board member has the ability to bring something like this to the Economic Development Committee. It's a very rare situation that we're in, that we have ARPA interest money. I don't want anybody to think that they don't have the right to request that. I personally would support that money going to the natatorium because I have seen the work that they're doing there. So let's just follow the process, and if any other board member has something that they're interested in, you know, that they feel passionately about in terms of ARPA interest, let's put it on the, you know, talk to Chair LaPlante and get it on the agenda. Member Garcia and then Member Galassi.
Yeah, thank you. And one final note on that. I know there are some deadlines, as Member Krajewski was saying. I've been talking to Member Galassi here. There are some deadlines on this, so I think that's the only reason that there's a little bit of more of a push instead of waiting for 2025, is to get this maybe through ARPA interest for this project. There's great projects all the way around. We all
Okay.
have great projects.
Okay.
But this one has like a little bit of a deadline. So, and also I'd love for District 2 to be included in any future meetings so that we have some idea of exactly maybe what's going on.
Let's
So
get
that'd
this
be
on the agenda. Let's get that through, and then let's have conversations right after the first of the year about the importance of working together on this initiative.
And then I have one more thing to say.
Okay.
Off the subject.
Okay.
November 23rd is the turkey giveaway through the DuPage Senior Services Council. We always need a lot of help on that because there's a lot of work to do with that. I think Member Zay is a big part of that. If I
The
correct
old guy
on
in
that.
turkeys?
Thank
The
you.
old guy in turkeys? Okay.
You corral them, you have to get them, you have to put them, no, just kidding. So, you know, we have a lot of seniors who are very excited about that, and they come for that. So if you're looking for something to really, you know, make you feel good and know that you're helping the community, I highly suggest November 23rd coming out between 9 and noon and helping out with that.
Great. Member Galassi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I know the reason to Member Garcia's point that Member Krajewski asked me to address this today is really because of the timing. I mean, time is of the essence, number one. And I just did want to draw some distinction between this initiative and some other, again, very important initiatives. And that is, this truly does have a return on investment of, you know, potentially 10% for the entire county. This isn't just District 2 or District 3. And all these member initiatives are going to be very important, but I don't know that they're going to bring a return on investment to the constituents of DuPage County, where when something like this that drives economic development will. I think that is a distinguishing feature of an ask like this. So I just wanted to point that out, that when it benefits the entire county from a revenue standpoint, it, you know, could be viewed differently than a different member initiative. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Do I not get to ask anymore? Okay, I'm informed we do not have matters before us requiring us to enter into executive session. We've been asked to provide procurement training to county board members. Valerie Calvetti, our Chief Procurement Officer, will lead us in the procurement training. Take it away, Valerie. I mean, I think they're just gonna leave.
That would be helpful. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing Procurement Division this time. For those who do not know me, my name is Valerie Calvente. I'm the Chief Procurement Officer here at the county. Let's see. I've outlined the agenda for the meeting today. Before I begin, you are probably wondering why a training meeting? Why now? First, we want to continuously improve the process from top to bottom. The Procurement Division goal is to bring consistency and continuity in acquiring goods and services for the county through a fair and transparent process. We are guided by the procurement ordinance. Training help county staff and elected officials make better decisions, streamlining processes, and improve the overall efficiencies, sorry about that, while adhering to the rules. Secondly, in the county's fiscal year of 2023 annual audit, Baker Tilly included a comment on the importance of documented policies for transparent and competitive procurement system. In response to this comment, we have worked to update and educate staff, department heads, elected officials, and now the county board. The division is currently reviewing the procurement ordinance. Change is inevitable. Therefore, if there is a change in the ordinance, it should take precedence over the training. Our goal is to strive to keep staff, elected officials, and county board updated of all changes. And this is our procurement team. The procurement division provides value, transparency, and compliance. Procurement is a resource for all departments and elected officials to achieve maximum value for the product and services. Our goal is to acquire product and services effectively and efficiently that meet the needs of our customers and the public. Procurement policies and processes have been established to promote a fair, transparent, and competitive process and practices and efficiencies throughout. This serves in the best interest of the county and the public. There are 3 approval thresholds: departmental authority, committee level approval, and board level approval. Departmental authority is small dollar value, under $15,000. These purchases are limited to frequency. Repetitive purchases in small amount that cumulatively exceed department threshold without committee or board approval is not allowed. If a department knows it will be required to subsequent purchases for the same goods and services, the total collected amount of the goods and services should be bid. Departments shall receive 3 written quotes for goods and services. Pricing shall be all-inclusive, including but not limited to shipping. Committee-level approved procurement is for purchases of $15,000 but less than board-level approval. Procurement division utilizes a competitive bid process for goods and services. It requires the county to advertise in publication. We currently use Daily Herald and Demand Star. In 2025, we will publish on our own website. Board-level approval is for purchases more than $30,000. It is competitively sealed bids and requests for proposals. It also requires us to advertise on Demand Star and also the Daily Herald. Procurement falls into all levels of procurement approval thresholds. We just don't play in one sandbox. Every procurement is different. Therefore, we apply the same standards regardless of the amount. There are 3 types of solicitation. Quote, which is a low threshold dollar value. If a department selects a dollar value of procurement under departmental signatory, it must acquire 3 quotes. A bid is a well-defined scope of services. It is competitively bidded out. The county shall advertise as always into the Daily Herald and Demand Star currently. There should be a public opening where pricing is read. Bidders shall receive communication opening of the notification of opening with the note attached that DuPage County bid receipt report is read as received. This is not an intent to award or to award. Late bids are not accepted. The RFP contains a well-defined scope, including but not limited to specifications such as attachments and drawings. Pricing is not the determining factor, placing value on fulfilling the department's needs. It is an evaluation process. We consider factors other than price: qualifications, experience, project approach, innovation, and value services added. Pricing could be higher than a competitor's price, but the value of providing the service is unmeasurable. Similar to bid, they are advertised, and we receive 2 files, one for technical and one for pricing. With the public opening, only the names are read. Exceptions from competitive bids. This is not a get-out-of-jail-free card. Although this is not procured through the county's procurement division, competitive bidding, contracts, insurance, and additional items may be required to do business with the contractor. Procurement division recognizes 7 cooperatives identified on the screen. A reminder, although they are not competitively procured, the contract matters. Although the county is not home ruled, therefore the state's attorney should review any contracts prior to award to ensure that the county is not agreeing to a term not allowed by this law and the terms of the contract are in the best interest of the county. Professional services defined as engineers, architects, and land surveyors. They are vetted through a qualified-based selection process. Emergency procurement is an imminent disruption of essential operations affecting the safety, health, and security of a person or property. Should this occur, the department shall work with its respective committee to begin the process. This is only an emergency procurement and not a long-term plan. Sole source items are available through a source of patent, copyright, trade secrets. Department shall obtain an official letter from the supplier stating that they are a sole source. And this is our bid process. So as previously stated, each request is different. Outlined is the process from receiving a solicitation request to completion. When the procurement division receives the request from a department or elected official, the chief procurement officer reviews the solicitation request to ensure that the need requested matches the type of bidding process, and if any additional information is needed prior to assigning the buyer. A draft of the bid or RFP is created by the buyer and sent to the requester for review and ultimately approved before we proceed in publishing. The bid is published. Depending on the type of procurement, an optional site visit or information meeting may be required. Bidders may submit questions, and an addendum is published. Procurement does not accept any late bids. They are really due on the date specified in the document. Bid openings are held in public. Bidders may submit electronically via hard copy or drop off at the finance department. They are also notified that we received their bids, and this is the results as read only. For bids that are awarded to the lowest responsive bidder, if an RFP was issued, an evaluation team is provided by the department to score the proposal based on the firm's qualifications, key qualifications, and project understanding. Scoring may not include interview or presentation depending on the department's request. Price is scored by procurement only and never disclosed to the evaluation team. The buyer sends a communication to the department. If it's a bid with the lowest bidder submission information, a bid tab is also included. If the RFP, the highest scoring evaluation including price to prepare the procurement review checklist for committee and board approval. This information is added into Legistar. So what should the board expect in this package to help them prepare for the committee or committee and board agenda? Procurement review comprehensive checklist. This detailed form shall contain the justification for the purchase, the contract dates, detailed information, and if applicable, for the type of procurement and decision memo. The resolution and the blurb. The resolution applies only to goods and services presented to the board. The blurb title applies to committee level approvals. The bid tab. Procurement issues the bid tab. If this item was not procured through procurement, such as a cooperative agreement, the contractor's price shall be included. If you're using a cooperative agreement, include the original cooperative agreement that contains the contractor's name, number, effective dates, and signed agreement. This information will also be included on the procurement review comprehensive checklist. For solicitations not issued through procurement, include the agreement in the Legistar. Procurement reviews the contract to ensure that there's no conflicting language and that DuPage County is not home rule and legally cannot agree to many of the terms. Example of this is Net 30. The department, elected official, and procurement shall work with the state's attorney office prior to submittal of the agreement in Legistar to ensure that we have a legal agreement that is in the best interest of the county. For solicitations issued by procurement, a sample contract is located within its bid documents to the customer for review. However, some contractors submit exceptions or exhibits for consideration. Procurement works with the state's attorney's office to review them on a case-by-case basis. Once it is approved by the committee or committee and board, procurement works with the contractor to obtain the required documents. Instead of the contract attached in Legistar, the bid or mandatory form signature page and bid pricing shall be attached in Legistar. Renewal contracts are under the same terms as the original agreement. If a contractor requests changes to the original terms other than the dates for renewal, any such requests shall be submitted to our state's attorney's office prior to approval. RFP responses are also included in the Legistar packet. Sole source letter is also included if this is a sole source procurement. The required vendor ethics disclosure statement shall be submitted with each procurement. The vendor ethics shall be signed within 60 days of the issuance of award. If the vendor exceeds 60 days, it may be delayed, and therefore we will ask the vendor to submit a current vendor ethics statement. So best practice. Adhering to the policy that the processes help all adhere to a higher standard of practice, resulting in increased efficiencies and greater effectiveness. We will continue to work with the departments, elected officials, to promote a fair, transparent, and competitive practices and efficiencies at DuPage County. Any questions?
Member Tonatore.
I've always been intrigued by sole source. How do you know that something is a sole source when all you're getting is a letter from the vendor that says, I'm a sole source?
So my best practice is definitely go out on the internet to see if there's another vendor that is providing that item.
So you gotta check.
So we do check, but then also some of the equipment that we do use here at the county for IT is only compatible with that particular item as well.
Right, I would understand if somebody has, like you said, intellectual property protection or something like that, where you can only use one, but there's more than just a letter from a vendor that says I'm a sole source.
It's the manufacturer as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Member Ozog. I want to thank you for being here today. I've been on the board 6 years, and I don't believe we've had a presentation like this, so it's very informative. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Member Evans. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Valerie. I just have a question about the evaluation criteria. Is that subject to FOIA, and is it included in the RFP? Like, so if you have an RFP, we tell them beforehand what the evaluation criteria is. Okay, and then once that's done, do people know the results? Like, you know, like if they lost to another contractor?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
We do notify them after the award.
Okay, and is
Yes.
it like a scoring, a number system?
It is a scoring as an average of the number of that's scored against it, also with the total score.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Valerie. Appreciate you. I'll take a motion to adjourn this meeting of the September session to Tuesday, November 26, 2024 at 10 a.m. for the passage of property tax levy pursuant of blah, 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 blah. All in favor? Okay, this meeting of the September session is adjourned until Tuesday, November 26, 2024 at 10.